And we're live, right?
And we're live. We're live, guys.
We're
There's
live.
there's
Okay.
no take backs. There's no cut scenes, any of that. We're doing it straight off the cuff. Not really, because we got a script, but
We
we
don't have
are
a delay.
live. It's We Talking About Sports. We're back here with I guess this is our second go around at our division breakdowns. And we're starting off with the NFC West. We're giving, I guess, a little bit of homage to the defending champs and starting there with the Rams, since they won the Super Bowl last year. And last year we started with the NFC West also because they were the best division in football. I don't know if that debate can be had anymore with the changes that have had in the offseason, but nonetheless, we're starting again with the NFC West. And I'm joined here today by Ben, we got Ron, and we got a special guest, our NFC West correspondent, our Arizona Cardinal expert, Robert. How are you guys doing?
Oh man, doing good.
Glad to have you back,
Living
Robert.
the dream. Yeah, happy to be here. You guys are all fancy now. Got slides ready to go.
A lot has changed.
We've leveled up a couple of notches since the last time you were here, Robert.
Love it.
Glad to have you. It's awesome to start getting into some NFL talk. The season is about 8 weeks away, I believe. I think we'll have football in 3 weeks.
Less than 50 days.
Yeah, boys, it's about to get to fantasy football season. We're going to get these division breakdowns, out of the way. We're starting off with what we had last year as the toughest division in the NFL. I think things have shaken up a bit, and we can recalibrate where this division stands. Happy to get into it, man. Happy to get into it.
Yeah, for sure. I'm excited. It's always everybody's ready for football season when people start talking about Madden ratings and shit. So that's how you know people are just antsy and bored.
Well, what's the biggest Madden rating miscue you've heard, or off the rails? Who's in the 99 club this year, Robert?
I don't know who's in the 99 club, and I know they release it in batches based off position.
Trent Williams,
so it's slow, right?
He's a 99 guy.
Who Devontae Adams was the wide receiver.
Devontae Adams. I thought they did Cooper Kupp dirty, not putting him 99.
Yeah, he definitely deserves it. Yeah, he deserves 99.
That's super dirty. That's my first time hearing it. I'm not planning on buying Madden this year. I'm going to be honest. This might be my first year taking it off, but Cooper Kupp not being 99 seems crazy.
The biggest snub of all, in my opinion, is Jamar Chase. They had him rated 87. He's not even a top 10 wide receiver.
He's 89, I think. 89, I think, that's a tough thing on the EA side of things. After 1 year, from a video game side of things, you can't just throw a 99 or 95 at a sophomore or rookie.
At least put him in the 90s,
wide
though.
Receiver.
At least
I agree. Yeah, put him in the 90s. He had one of the best, rookie wide receiver seasons ever. So it's tough. But you got to understand it's EA we're talking about here.
True.
And they are. Especially, if we're talking my biggest snubs, I don't like getting into this crap because it really is bullshit. But Jalen Thompson, the Cardinals safety, who was, second in the NFL in tackles last year. He's a 79 overall, which is just absolutely terrible.
Hey, we're in the trenches 4 minutes in, boys. We're in the trenches 4 minutes.
That's just criminal what they did to my boy.
Man,
I got Zeke at 88.
I got to stop y'all because we're 4 minutes in and we haven't even poured up. First show of 2022 NFL. We got to get the shotties out.
I love it.
Shout out to the Dodgers.
I love it.
So let's get that in, and then we can take it from there.
While you do that, I am going to say that Jalen Thompson was second in solo tackles in the NFL last season and the second highest tackling efficiency rating on PFF. So,
okay,
79 is a little low.
Cheers.
There's a little talk to be had there. Another interesting rating from the NFC West was, I don't even know if he's on the 49ers anymore. Never mind. It's Raheem Mostert. I think he's with the Dolphins now. We'll get into the departures later, but he's the fastest running back in the NFL.
And Roland, just to piggyback off that point, Robert, let me say, listen, if they got his Madden rating overall off, what did they get his speed at? Listen, to Madden players, as a veteran Madden player, it's all about speed, baby. We're going to play that 68 overall cornerback. If he's got 94 speed, over the 89 cornerback that's got 89 speed.
I don't play Madden. I don't play Madden anymore. But when I watch videos of people rolling around with Andy Isabella out there at wide receiver,
there you go. That's a god. That's a Madden god, baby.
98 speed.
Him and what's the guy's name from Cincinnati? Ross. What was
Yeah.
that?
John Ross. Yeah,
John Ross. There
Ross.
you go. John Ross.
Trying
99
go
speed.
routes with 99 speed boys out there. Yep.
All right. Well,
That's the
enough
name
of
of
the
the
Madden
game.
talk.
Yeah.
Let's get into why we're here. It's an NFC West breakdown, and like I said, we're going to start at the top. We're going to pay a little bit of homage, maybe give a flower or two to the defending champs as it stands right now. The Los Angeles Rams, they won Super Bowl 51. That is 51, right?
Yeah.
Or 56. Excuse me. They won Super Bowl 56. My Roman numeral count is off right now, but
They should
They
just
want
use
to-
numbers. Fuck
they
it.
won Super Bowl 56. If I remember correctly, we'll get into the odds later, but they were about plus 1,200 to win the Super Bowl pre-flop going into the season. They cashed that if you took it. I think we had a season-long win total bet on them, and they cashed that for us. I think it was over 10.5. But to look back at 2021 and their record, they went 12-5, 5-3 at home. They got to play in their new stadium in front of a fans for the first time. Beautiful stadium. 7-2 away, 3-3 against the division, and they won the Super Bowl, as we all know, 23-20 against the Bengals. A little interesting note here: they did get swept in the regular season by the 49ers, but they came back and they beat them to make it to the Super Bowl. So it doesn't really matter. 6 games decided by 1 score or more. That's 8 points or less. I used to look at it at 7 points, but now since everybody goes for 2 points now, we might as well include those 8-point differences. And they went 4-2 in those games. So they won their close games. They got their guy, Matt Stafford. And I was thinking about this on the drive home today. On paper, all the moves that the Rams have been making leading up to this point, they put together essentially a super team, if you will. They decided to throw away draft picks, and they decided to go all in on current superstars. And they created one of the better teams on paper, and it came to fruition. They
Criticized by many.
Yeah, criticized by many. I criticized them for throwing away the next 5 years of drafts or first-round draft picks at least to get Jalen Ramsey. They went ahead and they picked up Von Miller. They got OBJ. They made a bunch of moves. They got Matt Stafford, the much talked about move.
Shout out Marky Garza.
He's in the comments. Shout out Mark. And it actually came to fruition for them. Matt Stafford was all that they needed him to be. Everyone was saying, hey, we just need somebody better than Jared Goff in here. And look at what they did. They went and got Matt Stafford. They sent Jared Goff to the slums in 8 Mile. No offense to Detroit, but they sent him out there to 8 Mile and swapped him for Matt Stafford, and they got themselves a title.
Yeah,
First,
worth it.
Before I get into this, Robert, Ben, Ron, it's all worth it. Everything that they did, right? They got the ring, all the moves that they made. Who cares that they mortgaged their future?
I mean, yeah, it was do or die. Either they won the Super Bowl or they were complete flops, and they wasted their entire future off of what they're doing.
Hey, and there was a lot of naysayers about Matthew Stafford talking about he wasn't a diamond in the rough. He wasn't that guy. He could have been Jimmy Garoppolo in the Super Bowl. Shit. Listen, he went out there. They took it. We got to give Matthew Stafford some props, a fellow Texan. So, we'll tip our hat to a fellow Texan. I got to give the Rams some props. I was very skeptical on them being in all caps soft last year. I thought whenever they lost games, they lost because they were super soft. Like they were just they weren't tough. They were just trying to play with speed. Hence the OBJ, the running backs, all of that. The Rams definitely proved a lot of people wrong. I think they were underdogs in the Super Bowl. Most of us picked against them, except for, those Rams fans. Listen, I'm going to tip my hat to the Rams, but I'm going to say, no, you can't do it again this season. I am. They start off week 1 with the Bills at home, dropping the banner, getting their rings. Listen, the line has moved. They were favorites. Now the game's down to pick them. I'm zoned in on that week 1 game. I think that's going to be the tone setter for the Rams. Yeah, they can beat the fuck out of the Falcons week 2. You know what I'm saying? But week 1, it's going to be another Super Bowl week 1.
I think the over-under for that game came out today at 52. So ride the over.
It should probably be higher, Robert.
It might be one of those games.
Ride the over on that bad boy and just let it fly.
I'm gonna give my flowers, man, to the Rams, Los Angeles Rams. Shout out to LA. I'm a Dodgers fan, but as we know, and being
the Cowboys hat on, this is very fitting.
The Dodgers, bro.
Anyway, and as you guys know, we're big NBA fans here. So we know that when you try to build a super team, not one, not two, not three, not four, it doesn't always work that first year. AKA LeBron getting beat by the Mavs, AKA all the, the big threes right now in the NBA. You try to go make a super team and it doesn't work. And I know it's an NBA to the NFL, but the Rams did that. They put all their eggs in their basket and they won. And let's remember, it wasn't an easy road to get there. In the regular season, they were kind of average. They, had to win some tough playoff games to get to the Super Bowl. Then you go against Joey B and this, unknown rookies of the world. So you still had to overcome that, as well. Pretty much you had to overcome the world because everybody was on the underdog story with Joey B and the Bengals. So you have to give them props. It doesn't always work on that first year, and they made it happen. I mean, and I think it was a boomer bust because you had Aaron Donald saying he was going to retire. You had the head coach saying, hey, I might go into broadcasting. These guys were kind of just like huge monkey off our backs. We did it. We don't have anything else to prove. But at the end of the day, shout out to the Rams. They won. And, all those draft picks that they gave away, it all worked out.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that has to be supplemented by how well they drafted later in the rounds.
True.
With those draft picks that they did have, Cooper Kupp is one example where he was like a 4th round, 5th round guy, and he's now one of the top wide receivers in the NFL. Cam Akers is another guy they drafted. When he's healthy, he's really good.
And that's a good point. They did have to go through some running back changes throughout the year. They did battle injury. They had Darrell Henderson doing good the first half of the year. He went down. Sony Michel came in. Then Cam Akers came back because he's the guy who got injured in the beginning of the year that started the carousel at the running back position. And then they picked up OBJ in the middle of the year, and OBJ paid dividends for that team, I would say, because they had just gotten done losing Robert Woods to an ACL injury. Come in OBJ, and he proved everybody that he was another diamond in the rough, chilling with Baker Mayfield, trying to throw him the ball. So we know now who the problem was back in Cleveland. But enough of looking back into 2021. Enough flowers have been given. Although I do one more. Yeah. OBJ, he cashed that first touchdown in the Super Bowl prop for me, so I got to give him some props there. But other than that, enough looking back into 2021. Let's look into 2022. Ben mentioned they got that kickoff. It kicks off the NFL season. It's less than 50 days away against the Bills, September 8th at home. They're going to get the rings, going to drop the banner. And just to start it off with the Bills, they do have, based on 2020 win percentage or 2021 win percentage, the toughest schedule in all of the NFL.
Hey, Roland, you win the Super Bowl, you're going to get the X on your back. You're going to get the toughest schedule. That's just the way it works, brother.
Yep, and even some of these games that you would think, oh, well, maybe they'll get a W here. They have to go on the road. Like, they have to go and play the Saints on the road. And you know how tough it is in New Orleans. They got to play the Chiefs on the road. They got to play the Seahawks on the road, a division foe that they usually split with, although they're going to be down this year. They got to play the Chargers on the road. This is a team that went 7-2 last year on the road. Do you guys see a little bit of regression coming for these guys just based off of the strength of schedule?
Yeah, definitely. I think they still win the division, and I think they still play well, but I don't think they hit the same win mark. I also don't think that I think with Andrew Whitworth gone, that hurts them a little bit on the offensive line. It's a big loss for them. So we'll see. I mean, their defensive line is still stacked with, the best player in the league, arguably, and Aaron Donald. So it's tough. With the NFC West being a little bit weaker with the Seahawks downward trending, I think the Niners could be
tanking. Don't be nice, Robert. Don't be nice. Tanking.
A little tanky, just a little stench of tank going on over there. But they looking at the schedule here. The Packers are tough. The Broncos are very tough.
At Green Bay or in Lambeau.
Exactly, and later in the year in December. So if you're looking at shoe-in wins for them, I can count maybe 3 on the schedule right now.
Shoe-in wins, exactly. That's a good point.
3
that you can just mark it off that they're going to win.
3, yeah. So really, it's hard to say. I mean, I think they could either maybe go 10 wins, maybe 11, but that might be enough to win the NFC West this year.
I think saying 3 wins, I mean, there's 2 automatic wins against the Seahawks. They also get the Seahawks in the last month of the season, the last month and a half in the season. That's when the Seahawks are not going to be looking to win games at all. I think those are 2 shoe-in wins. I think they'll split with the Cardinals once. And I mean, we got the Panthers on the schedule. So 4 for sure. I mean, like you said, you expect them to win the division. They're going to be tough. They have the most coming back. They signed Allen Robinson at wide receiver. I know that he might be replacing OBJ. OBJ could still sign with the Rams. The Rams, I expect them to win the division. I'm going to agree with Robert there. I'm just going to say that they're at least guaranteed a 500 record. I'm going to give them shoe in.
There's no such thing as 500 anymore.
Well, facts. You're right. Now they up the games, but I'm just going to say I agree. They win the division, and I think that they sweep the Seahawks, split with the Niners, split with the Cardinals. So
yeah,
that's how
that's
I
fair.
feel with them.
Yeah, that's fair.
What about you, Ron? You've been quiet over there. What do you think about these guys in 2022? Are you calling for some regression for the Rams?
A little bit, but I'm quiet because I'm just enjoying this shit, bro. I'm literally kicking back and I'm just enjoying it. I'm enjoying everybody in the comments, so appreciate that. But yes, the Rams will have a little bit of regression, but don't forget, I mean, they still added Allen Robinson, like Ben said, and they added Bobby Wagner too, I believe, right?
Yes, they got Bobby Wagner from the Seahawks. Yeah.
Riley Dixon, Allen Robinson, Cooper Kupp's still there, and they re-signed Aaron Donald. I mean, so can you see some regression? Possibly. I think they easily win their division. They're going to be one of those teams, kind of like my Cowboys, who just dominate the division or have dominated the division, but still have trouble getting into the playoffs. 10.5 is tough because that schedule is just ridiculously hard. So I would take under 10.5 wins, but I would take easily for them to win the division just because the Seahawks are trash. The Cardinals, yes, they have the names, but I don't think that they're going to produce. And then the 49ers, I mean, there's a lot of controversy there. Honestly, I think that Jimmy G is gone, and you can't put your season in the hands of Trey Lance yet. So I don't think that they're going to be doing very well. So give me the Rams to win the division, but under 10.5 wins, just because that schedule is so tough. And we saw them be primarily healthy last year. I know OBJ got hurt, obviously super, super late in the Super Bowl, but, they're kind of an injury away from, maybe going to a 500 or, mediocre season, because all their guys are stars. But if you lose one of those guys, they lose a lot of firepower as well at the same time.
They did lose Woods, and they lost Cam Akers last year. They battled through that. I think they even lost Higbee in the playoffs, if I'm not mistaken. They did a really good job last year, bro. It felt like the ball rolled their way a lot last year.
That's what you got to get.
Right? I mean, that's what it takes in the playoffs. You just got to go on one of those runs, and they really did it. And a lot of credit to Aaron Donald. I mean, like Robert said, the best player in football. I think the way that J.J. Watt held that title for a couple of years, I think it's pretty unanimous who the best defensive player in football is.
It's Aaron Donald.
Well, speaking of defensive footballs, he may not be the best, but a guy that gets overshadowed because, Aaron Donald is on the same side of the ball as him is Jalen Ramsey. I mean, let's not forget, this dude is an all-world, corner, and he shuts down one entire side of the field. Now you have Wagner in the middle, and then you have Donald, on the line. So Jalen Ramsey, another guy that gets forgotten, and he shouldn't be. So I mean, that's what I'm saying, man. I don't see too much regression from the Rams, maybe a little bit because of injury, but I still see them right there, easily winning the division. Easily.
I agree. I do think they're going to win the division, partially agreeing with the way that Robert broke it down. I think the NFC West is a little bit down this year relative to where they were last year. So even if there is some regression, the Rams should still come out on top. They still got the best quarterback in the division. They still have probably the best roster in the division. So they should win. One thing that I wanted to point out, we haven't talked about it yet. It's up here in the key departures. Do you guys pay any mind to the offensive coordinator leaving, Kevin O'Connell? He's now the head coach in Green Bay, or do you just disregard that and McVay's the brain behind the operation?
I think McVay's had a different offensive coordinator almost every season. He's been the head coach because his offensive coordinators have always been going to getting head coaching opportunities.
Yeah.
So I think he runs the show pretty much. So I don't think too much will change schematically to make it a difference. But I do think it's going to be interesting to see how well Matthew Stafford plays again next season, because we did see, different spurts of him going back to throwing pick sixes, playing a little sloppy, or just playing over aggressive at times. And so,
he's a gunslinger though.
With the tougher competition this year, it'll be interesting to see how much he can get away with this time around, and if that truly impacts them at the end of the day, at the end of the season. So we'll see. I don't know. I mean, that's really the biggest point right there is if Matthew Stafford plays as well as he did at an elite level, I don't think there's anything slowing them down besides that.
I guess one other question that I wanted to ask has to do with the signing actually. Do you guys think Allen Robinson can step in, and I'm going to phrase this differently, but do you think he can step in and give you OBJ or what Robert Woods was giving you? And do you think that he was a diamond in the rough? Because he was playing in Chicago. He didn't have anybody throwing him for years.
Yeah, Allen Robinson is better than Robert Woods, I think.
No, hell no, bro. I've been out on Allen Robinson since.
But it's not his fault.
Yeah. Hey, are you out on Allen Robinson as a fantasy player?
Hey, let me tell you.
I'm always talking about fantasy.
I was a
fantasy. That's fine. I agree.
I was a B team receiver in 8th grade, and I ran routes. I was getting open every single time, but I didn't have a quarterback to get me the ball, so my stats looked like shit. I had to steal the ball from another guy to score a touchdown.
Hollywood Zamora.
Roland, me and you both went through this. The comment section can attest to this. I am putting Allen Robinson below OBJ. When the Rams got OBJ, we said, nah, homie is washed.
We did.
Hey, washed. Like Allen Robinson, he's levels below OBJ. This is a non-draftable fantasy football player that you expect to be your number 2.
Not non-draftable.
Very aggressive.
Not non-draftable.
Hey, if you want to deal with that bullshit all year, listen, I'll tip my hat to you. I'm not drafting him. I'm not dealing with that.
Justin Fields, you can't compare him to Matthew Stafford. He had Blake Bortles throwing him the ball.
I'm not dealing with that.
I think he had a top 12 year when he had Blake Bortles throwing on the ball. Of course,
he had some injury concerns too. So I don't know. I can see he burned a lot of people in fantasy a lot.
Yeah,
so
he burned me. I drafted him last year. He burned me.
He didn't just burn me,
animosity, but
he embarrassed me. He put the clown nose on me, the 2 dots. And the fucking hair. He
sounds like you drafted him first overall, so I don't recommend doing that.
No, but even in the 4th round, I'm out. Allen Robinson is dead to me.
Yeah, all right.
Where is he predicted to go? Because I'm on Allen Robinson. I'll take him.
I think he's going around like the 3rd or 4th round.
Oh, that's way too much. If he's there in the 6th and 7th,
it's probably more.
I'll take him.
I think it's between 4 and 6. Third's not really likely.
I'm gonna give you all this, and
wide
I
receiver
want y'all
24.
to choose right here.
24.
Right here, Brandon Cooks or Allen Robinson.
I mean, well, from a fantasy perspective, Brandon Cooks is the only target pretty much in Houston.
Okay.
So he's definitely better value
with a horrible quarterback.
As a wide receiver, from like a football perspective,
isn't that bad. He's better than
I think Allen Robinson's a good wide receiver as a football player in real life.
That's a good point, and I was gonna say I think that because of Ben, you're not wrong.
That's a very good comparison, bro.
Allen Robinson, he failed a lot of people last year. I think that might have been the 2nd year in a row that he's failed people. But that being said, you're going to be able to get him a lot later in the draft this year. So I think he could be a potential value play. You're not drafting him to be a wide receiver 2, maybe a flex play or a guy to come in and be a wide receiver 2 on a bye week. I think you can get value there.
Roland, Brandon Cooks was a player last year that we were able to draft in the 7th or 8th round of the draft, brother. Like, it's the Houston Texans. They got a 4.5 win total. The Rams are supposed to be a guaranteed playoff team. You expect that offense to be humming a lot better than the Texans.
And they play with pace. They've been towards the top of the NFL in terms of pace of play. Last year they were number 4 in pace of play. Their offense, they score the ball. So with that being said, you would think that Allen Robinson is going to get some opportunities to score. So I don't know. I'm not as out on Allen Robinson as you are, but I definitely see your point.
But that's
Allen Robinson coming out party.
It's Brandon Cooks over Allen Robinson every 7 days out of the week, baby.
You know what? You know why it's Allen Robinson? Because they don't. OBJ's hurt, and they're not going to work to resign him.
Right,
they'll probably just let him go. Allen Robinson is the guy. He's gonna have a breakout year because he
I
finally
like
has a
that, Ron.
quarterback. He finally has a quarterback, and he's finally working in a good system.
No
He was with the
excuses.
Jaguars. He was with the Bears. Those teams you're not gonna compare to the system. I mean, coaching
Thank you,
level
Ron. Thank
as
you.
the Rams
Fair.
are. They're gonna
Fair.
put this guy. They're gonna put this guy in the position to win. Every other team that he was on, it was just go routes, deep slant. I mean, the same kind of DK Metcalf.
50-50 ball. Go and get it.
50-50 ball. No, they're gonna
Yeah.
set him up, and don't forget they have Cooper Kupp. You don't think Cooper Kupp's gonna draw? I mean, coverage. Everybody's gonna be on him. Allen Robinson should eat, in my opinion.
I like that. And let's flip the conversation. Before I do that, I got to point out, Ron, I like the stash. I just noticed it right now. See you working that mustache. I like that. Let's flip the
You're a
conversation.
Yankee
Though.
stash.
Ben, you're talking about Allen Robinson. You're staying away from him. Who do you like on the Rams? Let's get into the fantasy football.
Who do I like on the Rams? Listen, I've ran a couple mock drafts. It's fantasy season, damn it.
Already.
All right, it's fantasy season. I've seen Cooper Kupp go number 2, number 3. He's the first wide receiver being taken. I don't blame them. Allen Robinson's the number 2. Damn it.
Who do you
Listen.
like? Just tell us who you like.
I like Cam Akers. I like Cam
Okay.
Akers. I like the running backs. I think that the Rams are going to be a heavy running team. I think that they have Cooper Kupp. Yes, they have Cooper Kupp. They need to run the ball. I think that Matthew Stafford also, he plays better off of the play action, off of the run game. They tried to run the ball last year no matter who was back there. Cam Akers is going to be back. I like the value on Cam Akers.
See, I'm going to contest that a little bit because I did just draft Kyron Williams from Notre Dame, and I like him a lot. And I do, and Cam Akers, yeah, and they also have Darrell Henderson, who's also a really good running back. He changed the pace a little bit.
Darrell Henderson.
So it's just a little too much. It's just a little too many mouths to feed back there for me from a fantasy perspective. But that's just how I usually approach running backs.
Good point. Good point there.
The no doubter is Cooper Kupp. But if we got to pick the second biggest producer on the Rams team, I'm going Cam Akers.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I agree. I think.
Go ahead.
I think from a value perspective, two guys I really like are Van Jefferson, because I think Matthew Stafford really liked letting it fly with him downfield last year.
I hope so.
And I think that'll even continue more as he's a sure shot wide receiver 3 now with Woods gone and OBJ gone. So that'll clear some room up for him.
I think I've seen Jefferson. He's rated usually wide receiver 68.
See, that's
So you
great
can get
value
some
there.
value on him.
Yeah, you can let him ride the bench until he starts popping off if you wanted to. And I
Definitely.
think another thing I'm a big proponent of is not reaching for tight ends. So I think Tyler Higbee's a great play as a tight end later in the rounds of fantasy. Matthew Stafford seems to really like him. I'm assuming he's healthy. I mean, I think he's a great tight end.
Question for you guys. I know we talked about all these different options, but back to Cooper Kupp. I just have a question because I've been hearing this debate a lot. Would you guys take Cooper Kupp before you take Derrick Henry if you're staring at both of them on the draft board?
Yes.
No, I like running backs. I think running backs are more important still. Maybe I'm an old head when it comes to fantasy in that regard.
Okay, fair enough. What about you, Ron? Would you take Cooper Kupp over Derrick Henry this year?
Shit, I'm going Cooper Kupp all day. Reason being is just he's going to get the ball and you still can't stop the dude. I mean, I saw an article today they were interviewing like DBs that have covered him and said he does what you're not supposed to do. He does what you don't think. Like there was a DB that said he runs routes that I've never even seen before. So this guy just finds a way to get open. And fantasy-wise, that's an easy choice because obviously, well, I mean, if you're in a PPR, I mean, his receptions, 7
to 10 every week.
I'm sure, yeah, his season average last year was no less than 7, no less than at least 10 targets, and he's a smart receiver too. He's kind of like the who was that guy from the Colts and with Peyton Manning that would always go that would always go down.
Reggie Wayne.
No,
it wasn't Stokely?
No, it wasn't Stokely. It was the whiteout.
Marvin Harrison?
Harrison. Marvin Harrison. Marvin Harrison catches the ball up the middle. He's going down right away. He's not taking He's not taking those unnecessary hits, which led to him being on the field so much. So he's another guy who you probably don't think that he's going to get injured on the field, take those big hits, and he doesn't drop a lot of balls either. He has really, really good hands. So fantasy-wise, Cooper Kupp, Derrick Henry, I'm going with Cooper Kupp. Easy.
And boys, so are we talking about Derrick Henry over Devontae Adams? I mean, Cooper Kupp over Devontae Adams. Should Cooper Kupp be the first wide receiver drafted
Yes.
this season?
Yes.
There's an argument for it. Yeah, I agree.
Because you're still
Consensus.
as minuscule as a risk might be, there's still a little bit of more risk associated with Devontae Adams just because he's changing teams. I know people are going to say, hey, he has the chemistry with Carr back from his Fresno State days, which they probably do. But there's still a potential adjustment period, if you will, out there that I would have to consider. So I'd go with Kupp over Devontae Adams myself.
Less targets, too. You got Waller, you got Renfro. Listen, if Allen Robinson's your number 2, that's Cooper Kupp all day, bro. You know, barring an injury. I mean, I think we all agree the Rams should win this division. They got, they're returning the most. The loss of Von Miller, how much do you all see it playing in? Do you see it taking effect in the regular season, or do you not see it showing up until the postseason?
I'm just going to go real quick. He didn't do much in the regular season last year. It was kind of a coming out party for him in the playoffs and the Super Bowl. So, I mean, as great as he is, he's still a vet. He's still getting up there in age. And you would have thought he probably would have done better with all the attention going on the other side with, Donald. But I don't see it as a big loss because you still have Bobby Wagner. Obviously, they don't play the same position, but you have another coach on the field, another veteran, like Von Miller.
Yeah, they still got Leonard Floyd, too.
In Bobby Wagner. So I don't see it as a big loss.
Yeah, I don't see it as a big loss either. They still got Leonard Floyd rushing the quarterback as well from that position. So, and they still got the best defensive player in the whole league in Aaron Donald. So I don't think it's going to be a huge loss. I think it's a good get for the Bills. Don't get me wrong, but I think the Rams find themselves in a good position with or without Von Miller. I think we're all pretty high on the Rams. Maybe not as high as we were on them last year going into the season, because we were pretty high on them.
10.5 was money last year.
Yeah, it was, and it cashed for us. They won the Super Bowl, and they're that rare mix of they're good in real life, and they provide a lot of good fantasy options. This next team that we're going to get into, however, we don't know if that's going to be the case this year. They did make the playoffs last year. That is the Cardinals. The Cardinals are a much talked about fantasy team.
Look at that smile on Robert's face. Look at that.
Kyler Murray.
Dude, that's a tough picture of Nuke, man. Look at that.
Hey, that's the greatest wide receiver of all time, baby.
I just gave him his new phone screensaver. If people still
that picture's tough.
That's your lock screen right there. You're welcome.
Mr. DeAndre Hopkins.
Robert. Is that your lock screen, Robert?
Nah, man, I got my 2 kiddos on the lock screen.
Hey,
but,
that's tough though, right?
After this one, it's pretty tough. Yeah, it's hard to beat. I love it. I love me some Nuke. People are kind of sleeping on him because of the suspension, so people aren't talking about much right now, which is fair, I guess. But he's going to come back week 7. He's gonna remind people who the fuck he is.
He was their big get. He came into the Cardinals last year, right? Or was it the year before? I can't remember.
Year before.
Okay,
2 years ago.
He was their big get 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Kind of started this transition for the Cardinals, turning from the little down days that they had and turning around to, I guess, greener pastures. But let's look at what they did in 2021. Second place in the NFC West. When I was doing this breakdown, I already had keyed in the 49ers. I had to remind myself that the Cardinals actually got second place. They finished 11-6. They weren't very good at home. They went 3-5. This one kind of surprised me. They went 8-1 on the road. They were road warriors this year. Or this past year, 4-2 against the division.
They beat the Bills, fam.
Yep. But they got stomped by the Rams in round 1, 34-11. I'll let maybe Robert break down the game if maybe the box score doesn't tell the whole story. But 34-11, that's a pretty sound beating there.
That was an ugly game. I mean, it was just ugly from the start. Field position was bad. Turnovers were bad. It didn't seem like the Cardinals were ready for that game at all.
So might as well have not even made the playoffs coming out with that performance in round 1. I don't know if I go that far.
It's tough. It's hard. It's also hard because you're playing a divisional opponent, and that's a completely different ball game. Yeah. If it was against somebody else besides a divisional opponent, the tables could be completely turned. It could be a completely different ball game. But the Rams definitely had their number.
And they did go 11-6. They had 7 close games. And maybe this is an area for improvement for them. They went 3-4 in those games. You would think having a guy like Kyler Murray, a good signal caller or play caller like Cliff Kingsbury, they would fare a little bit better in those games. But they did go 3-4. So maybe that's something that they turn around in 2022. Do you have anything? Yeah, there's a big sigh right there, Robert.
Yeah.
Do you have something to say on that?
But those close games, it just comes down to a coin flip, in my opinion. I mean, look at the Green Bay Packers game.
Packers game.
I mean, look at the Packers game, man. I mean, if AJ Green turns around, that's just one of the best comebacks freaking ever. It was badass.
Hey, Robert, but how does a 15-year vet not know how to turn around, though, Robert?
Yeah, that's it. That's the question of the year, right? I mean, I don't know what happened. I wish I did.
That's because I played
AJ
him.
Green
that
doesn't
game.
really say.
And if you would have made
happened.
that catch, I would
Thursday
have
night
won.
football,
I would have won
bro.
my fucking fantasy.
Thursday night football. Cardinals are dominating for the most part.
7-0 going into that game.
Yep.
So it's crazy. I mean, it's just crazy. Cardinals win that game. The problem is, either way, that game led to Kyler being hurt. So Kyler had an ankle injury for the next 3 to 4 weeks, and who knows if it lingered on throughout the season. But that ankle injury really stung.
That seems to be his MO.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, that's the concern, right? If he can stay healthy, because he does have these lingering issues, and it happens towards the end of the season every year. Last year was the ankle. Year before that, it was a similar issue, concern with ankle, knee issue. So, and somewhat of his shoulder that was causing problems. So it's hard to say. He looked great when he was healthy, though, which was awesome.
Yeah, he did.
And he, even towards the end of the season, you could see he was slowly starting to get back into the swing of things. And this game he came back was against the Bears, which was a good comeback game, and he looked pretty good in Chicago. Nuke was back that game too. And then the wheels kind of fell off the next week because it was against the Rams on Monday Night Football, and that was a tough game in which it was close still, which was exciting. I think it was like 21-13 or something like that.
Let me ask you, and we'll talk more about this, but I just want to ask before we get into the 2022 outlook and we get into their schedule and bets and props and whatnot. For you, I guess 2 questions. Are you comfortable paying Kyler Murray and making him your long-term quarterback?
Oh, yeah.
And, okay, so then this next question I already know your answer to. Is it a make it or break it year for Kyler Murray?
So there's 2 parts to that, right? First of all, absolutely pay the dude. I mean, the Cardinals aren't finding a better quarterback anytime soon.
True.
So it's just money. Just pay the dude, take the cap hit. He's extremely fun to watch. He's extremely electric, and he's elite when he's healthy. So who cares? Just pay him and let's ride it out. Second of all, that's a little trickier because I don't think the season's do or die at all. And that's for a lot of reasons. I think one of the reasons is that Kyler is so young and that has plenty of time to develop and improve his game. And 2, we just extended Cliff, so they're not going anywhere anytime soon. So
you don't think that breeds a little bit of complacency, extending the coach when he really hasn't? I mean, you guys haven't won a playoff game.
No, but that's true. But also his record's been look what he did. So to put things in perspective, things in perspective, the year before he joined, when Steve Wilkes was the Cardinals head coach, the Cardinals had one of the worst offenses in NFL history. I'm not talking about in the league, in NFL history when Josh Rosen was there. And Steve Wilkes was, it was bad. It was very ugly, and it was hard to watch games. And it was insane. It was one of the, and I've seen some bad Cardinals seasons where Max Hall and just random John Skelton are out there playing football. And still, the season that we had, Sam Bradford,
you guys used to throw
Josh Rosen out there. and that was still one of the worst seasons. And then, to flip things around and turn things into Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler Murray being together, and how much success we've seen just within these past 3 years has been awesome and extremely fun to watch. Obviously, we haven't won a playoff game yet, but that needs to come, right? And I don't think it has to be this year.
Okay, so then let me ask you one more question, because you're fairly level-headed. Every time that I've ever talked to you about the Cardinals, you shoot it straight. You're very black and white about your team. Do you have a pulse for how the whole fan base is feeling, though?
Yeah. I see it every day. So it's extremely reactionary. I think when the shit popped off earlier in the season, let's say late last season, with Kyler Murray having some kind of questionable body language on the sidelines and things of that sort. Yeah. So that's something he has to improve on, because you can tell Personally, I think that body language is just more about, hating losing so much.
He wants to
He's
win.
ne-
Yeah.
He's
he wants
never
to win.
lost like this before in his
He's
life.
the most winningest high school quarterback ever.
Yeah. And I think he's really struggling with that. And I think it's a combination of that. And also just, that's the way he, kind of deals with adversity is just, getting in his own head and thinking about how he can solve it and play a little hero ball. So he's got to improve on that, but he's young. So that's something that can be built upon and improved. And he's got a lot of leaders in the locker room with J.J. Watt and Nuke and a few other guys that can really, show him the way and just improve that. But there's also plenty of times on the sideline where he's, cheering people up and, high-fiving and getting pumped up. So it's a combination of those two things that don't concern me.
Okay. So no concerns right now. It's not a make it or break it year.
Yeah. And
for
I
the
can
Cardinals.
elaborate more on the make it or break it year because I think, like I said, with Cliff being extended, with Kyler, I think there's like a 90% chance he signs a contract before the season starts based off the reports.
Do you have an idea what the holdup is, though?
I think it's mostly just most quarterbacks don't sign contracts until this time of the year. I think asking for a contract, in the middle of the spring before the draft even happened is extremely unprecedented and not very common at all. And I think this just gives more bargaining and more time to really lay out the numbers. And that whole shit show that was happening in the spring and early in the offseason.
It was a pretty big shit show. It was.
Yeah, it was. And a lot of it, Kyler removing the Cardinals from his Instagram in the middle of the, All-Star game and Pro Bowl and all that stuff. It was a bad look. And then all of a sudden, the dust has settled and all is well that ends well. So we're all good now. You know what I mean? He's about to sign a huge fat contract. We just brought in Hollywood Brown into town, his best friend and, former teammate. So I think things are looking better as far as a relationship standpoint goes. And really, we don't even know from our perspective, from a fan perspective, from just anything. We don't actually know how things are going or what it actually looks like inside those doors. We just only see, his Instagram being deleted and shit like that.
True.
And then his agent talking a bunch of shit online, but his agent's just a big baby anyway. So it's funny. His agent actually represents Cliff Kingsbury too. So
interesting. And, at the end of the day, everybody is going to try and get their bag. We see it all over the league.
Sure.
Everyone's going to get their bag.
Debo Samuel's been doing that. People have been requesting trades, demanding
everyone
money. Tyreek Hill did it.
Everyone has a right to do it. Everybody has a right to go and get their money. So I have no problem with that.
I think they said it's going to be like $280 million or something like that. It's going to be around Patrick Mahomes' money he's going to get. So he's going to get the bag.
Patrick Mahomes' money. I guess that's where the market's at. I guess
that's where the market's at now. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's a 2-year-old deal now. So that's about right.
Yeah. Robert, so you're fine and dandy with Kyler Murray being the franchise quarterback?
Yep, he just said he was.
Yeah, for sure. No doubt. Okay. And I think you guys have to remember this is the Arizona Cardinals we're talking about here. And we don't have many other options. And I think his upside is just, through the ceiling. It's insane. So it's worth every risk or concern, whether it's leadership or whatever the hell you want to staple it as. It's worth sending him $280 million for sure.
I appreciate your insight on that whole situation and breaking it down a little bit further for us who might not be as tuned into the Cardinals as you are.
I mean, why not?
We got some questions here. We got some comments. We got Mondo in here, and we're going to use this to transition into 2022 and look at what they got for the season. Mondo wants to know, are the Cardinals beating the Broncos this year? Because as Robert said in the beginning, the NFC West is matched up with the AFC West. So that does make for a very tough schedule. The Cardinals come in right behind the Rams with the second toughest schedule, and they get no breaks right from the beginning. Chiefs, the newly built Raiders, the defending champs, the Rams, maybe get I'm blanking out on my words, a breath here. They get to take a little bit of a break and play the Panthers, but then they get right back up and play the Eagles, who are supposed to be good this year.
They might very well start off 0-3, Robert.
They could. Yeah, game 1 against the Chiefs. I'm so excited because I get to find out who the Cardinals actually are week 1.
Great litmus test.
So let's find out who the Cardinals are going to be in 2022 week 1 against the Chiefs and see what's going on.
And no better time than to take on the Chiefs than the first game of the season after losing Tyreek Hill. You know what I mean? It's clearly going to be, getting into the motion still. You don't expect, Patrick Mahomes to play much of preseason. So week 1 is going to be very much of a feeling out process outside of, practices. It's going to be very live. and that you don't want to face them any other time besides week 1, in my honest opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think that's the best time to catch them. If you saw even last year when they were firing full force, the Chiefs still had struggled at the beginning of the season. So this definitely seems to be the time to catch them.
Trying to pull up the line for that game, Robert. If you have it off the cut, it's Chiefs are 3-point favorites on the road.
That's fair.
Cardinals 3-point dogs.
I think that's fair.
Over under set at 53.
Hey, they couldn't put it high enough, baby.
Fun.
We're going to the moon with that one, baby.
Hey, smash the Chiefs there, bro. Smash the Chiefs. I'm not.
You know,
Just look, watch.
I can't argue against it. But,
I'm not. Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm not saying it to be, a hater to our special guest or anything like that. But I do not see the Cardinals going anywhere this year. Nuke is out. Hollywood Brown, yes, the best friends and this and that, but I mean, he's a boomer bust guy. It's it's a 30-40 yard slant up the field or a skinny post, and that's pretty much it.
Bust.
And he doesn't. I mean, he has hands. He's an NFL receiver, but he doesn't have the best hands. We've seen some drops, from the guy before. James Conner, I mean, solid back, but the offensive line, is it great? Yeah,
middle of back.
Yeah, probably not. So give me the under here at 8.5 because they're after their bye. I mean, they have the Patriots, and that's a tough game. At the Broncos, that's going to be a tough game. The Bucks, don't sleep on the Falcons, and you maybe get a win at the end of the season against the Niners.
Sleep on the Falcons. Hey, sleep on the Falcons.
All right. Whatever.
But regardless,
I see
4 out of 5 tough games.
I see a ceiling, and then that's because you said they might start off 0-3. I see a ceiling here of about 7 games. You don't know what the Panthers are going to bring. The Seahawks, I think, are possibly you get 2 wins there. But I mean, look at this, man. You have at LA, then the Niners, and then you go, against the Chargers as well. So I mean, even the middle of that, it's don't sleep on their strength of schedule here, man. And I just
number
don't
2,
know.
rank number 2.
Yeah, and I think that's mostly what it is. I mean, 8.5 for a team that showed us. Can you say they showed us their true colors toward the end of the year? I mean, I know Kyler was hurt. They lost Hopkins, but that defense isn't, a defense that can shut it down and hold it down when their offense isn't doing well either. So my best bet here is under 8.5. Kyler Murray was my guy. I drafted him 2 years in a row, but I feel there's a lot of tension still in the.
And let's get into that.
In the headlines, everybody's going to say that everything is okay in the headlines, but this is a boomer bust because they just had that big contract for the coach, and it is a big boomer bust because he's only making like $5 million this year or something like that. So this guy wants his money, and if he's talking about Patrick Mahomes contracts, if you go out and you shit the bed, you ain't getting that Patrick Mahomes contract, buddy. I'll tell you that because they just gave a bunch of money to your coach and Hollywood Brown, and you is still under contract. So this is a boomer bust year.
Hallelujah!
I'm not saying that it's.
Well,
I'm not saying that it's Baker.
He'll get the money before the season starts.
I'm not saying that it's Baker Mayfield
boomer bust, though.
But you better go out and prove yourself if you're taking them off of your social media.
Hey, Robert, he wrote that fucking letter, Robert. We ain't forgot about that letter, Robert.
The agent wrote the letter.
The agent wrote the letter.
But
he had to sign off on it.
Look, we talked about it right now. They did extend Cliff Kingsbury already. So for me, the do or die going into the season, I thought was going to be Cliff Kingsbury because, hey, all that he has to show is a round 1 loss, 34-11 to the Rams. And that's, what happened. But to Robert's point, he took them out of the slums where they were at prior to him showing up. They had some dark days, but we didn't even get, into my mind, the biggest point here for the Cardinals is what they lost on defense. Robert, what do you have to say for them losing Chandler Jones and Jordan Hicks?
I'm not worried about Jordan Hicks is not as big of a loss as it sounds
Chandler Jones, though.
Chandler Jones is a big loss. And it's one that's going to be hard to replace because, first of all, the Raiders paid him a shit ton of money. So good for him.
A lot of money.
So good for him.
Vegas got money, baby.
And Vegas is an exciting team to be around right now, so I don't blame him. And he still said he almost took a pay cut to stay with the Cardinals. It was a tough decision. But, I do like what the Cardinals are doing on defense a little bit. It sounds like Isaiah Simmons is really coming into his own this offseason. He's been practicing a lot with the safeties now, which is exciting to hear. So he'll be mixing it up a little bit more, a little safety play.
Over under 2.5 positions that he plays this year. Is he going to play 3?
Oh, it'll be over, yeah. I mean, hell, he was even lined up as slot corner last season when we needed him to. So who the hell? But so if things work out with Isaiah Simmons finally this season, the defense could look a lot better. What happened with Jeff Gladney was super tough. Him passing away, and that was a big signing for the Cardinals. And I was super excited about that signing too. So that was super, super sad to see when that happened, because he was going to be a starter, honestly, day one. So yeah, rest in peace. So the cornerback room, there's lots of free agents still, so a lot can happen still. With Cardinals have some cap space, which is almost like $10 million in cap space. So reports are coming out there. They're looking at a lot of depth in the cornerback position from veterans. There's some decent veterans out there too. Janoris Jenkins comes to mind, a few others that they could bring in and try to build some depth, while also second-year Marco Wilson, who's a 4th rounder from Florida last year, started right off the bat and played really well, especially for a rookie corner. So if he comes into his own this year, Byron Murphy was playing really well. The safety room is stacked with Jalen Thompson and Budda Baker. It really comes down to that defensive line on if they want to show up or not, because that's definitely the weakest point of this entire Cardinals team. I've been saying that for years. And if the Cardinals really want to be a competitive team and reach that next echelon of tiers, then they have to build that defensive lineup and get better there, because it's just too weak right now. There's too many holes. Chandler Jones is gone now. Yep. There's just not enough depth, and there's just not enough even just veterans there. JJ Watt is awesome, and I love JJ Watt, and he looks like he's in great shape for the next year, but he's older, and the dude just can't stay healthy.
He's a workout warrior. He's going to make you think that he's
the dude just can't stay healthy, man. That's crazy.
Robert, as a fellow Texan, before Bill O'Brien traded me to Bill's Mafia, listen, JJ.
Oh, you were included in one of those trades?
Yeah. An unconditional 9th round pick, Roland. All right. But JJ was great in the locker room, definitely past his prime, but you need to have those guys. You feel me? Like it's the type of guy who keeps
he's a locker room changer for sure. He changes 100%. The entire dynamic of the team. He's awesome
just
to have
like
around.
His brother in Pittsburgh, who's younger,
yeah,
they have that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
they have that.
People can argue that the loss of Nuke was the reason the Cardinals went downhill last season, but I could argue that it was JJ Watt getting hurt more than anything. That really,
but he's gonna get hurt. He's gonna get hurt, Robert.
I know, it just sucks, because he's such an important piece to the team, and so when he gets hurt, it's hard. But and you pay him a lot of money, so it's just tough.
My favorite play, I'm gonna go with Ron here. I was a big believer in the Cardinals when they got DeAndre Hopkins on the low, like on a Black Friday deal. They got DeAndre Hopkins. But
was it a Best Buy or Walmart Black Friday deal?
That shit had Best Buy, it had Geek Squad insurance, it had everything on the deal.
It was online, everything. Online.
But this year, with Hopkins suspended till week 7, Allen Robinson as your number. Oh no, Allen Robinson is the Rams.
Man, bro.
Hey, Zach Ertz.
We'll get into that. We'll get into that right now.
I'm just saying. I'm keying in. If I'm the Cardinals, listen. This is make or break, and there's no two ways about it. Yes, the head coach got extended, but if that quarterback doesn't get signed before the season starts, then the fucking timer starts, baby. And it's not no Lamar Jackson timer where we know that he's going to sign back with the Ravens, but he's saying I got to prove it. Listen,
it would be a bad sign of faith if they didn't sign him before the season.
Yeah,
they let him go
2 months, baby. 2 months.
I know, but I'm just saying that they let him go into the season like that, flapping. They usually don't like to do that. They should get a deal done. But I do agree. My eyes like to go to the season total over under. I do like the under 8.5. When I put together their wins throughout the year here, I had a hard time getting them to at least 7 wins.
7, right? Yeah.
I had them right around 7 and 10, and I was trying to be as fair as I could be, Robert. I don't give me that look. I was trying to be as fair
No,
as I
it's
could
fine.
be.
It's one of those things. Let me ask you this.
Okay,
Shoe in, bro. I mean, shoe in. Shoe in. You only give them the Falcons.
Let him ask. Let him ask.
Let him ask the question.
How many wins do you think Aaron Rodgers is worth for the Packers?
How many?
6.
Without the strength of schedule.
I mean, Aaron Rodgers is worth a good he'll win 4 or 5 games by himself.
I was going to say 6.
How many do you think Kyler Murray is worth?
Bro, we're not going to compare that.
3.
Hey,
Kyler Murray,
Robert, not
3
on
to
this
4.
podcast. Robert, not on
That's
this
good.
podcast.
He'll win you about 2 to 3 just off
1.5, bro.
No, just off the back, just him making plays 2 to 3. I'll give you that.
Okay.
He hasn't even been re-signed off his rookie deal. We're not going to compare
I'm not
Kyler
comparing
Murray
the two.
to Aaron Rodgers.
It was more putting things in perspective.
We're not doing that.
It was more putting things in perspective on how many
Okay.
wins a quarterback's
All right.
worth for their team. And if Kyler Murray is a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, then I think he can carry this team to 9 wins.
Okay. All right. We got Robert here saying
Hey, Ben, that's his take, and it is what it is.
That it is.
And I want
to. I mean, shit. How off were we on the Rams last year? And they shut us up. So hey,
No, we were up on
them
OBJ.
winning the division.
We were up
We
on
had
OBJ.
them. We were over on them. We were very high on
Robert,
them.
preach, Robert, preach.
I'll give you guys this. I think from a fan's perspective and from people who don't follow the Cardinals or haven't followed the Cardinals for many years, they saw the Cardinals' success last season and started taking the Cardinals seriously for a while.
Yeah.
And they saw their slump happen towards the end of the season and started to get their doubts again that this is the same old Cardinals. With those 2 halves of the seasons being so drastic and different, from the outside looking in, it's easy to say, hey, the Cardinals need to show up this season, or I'm just going to go back as the same old Cardinals, and they're in the dumpster again. I think that's an easy thing to look at and view, especially just how the past has always been with the Cardinals. But I think that the Cardinals are building something a little bit longer term here than just this season, because this isn't the Rams we're talking about here. The Cardinals didn't trade all their picks and build an ultimate super roster. But I will say this.
They also haven't re-signed their franchise quarterback.
So let's just make the assumption that he's re-signed before the season starts.
Okay, I'll give you that.
That's got to be quick
I'm
too.
playing your
We only got like
hypothetical.
3 weeks.
That's 3 weeks away. Facts.
I'm gonna message y'all when it happens so we can get that out of the way.
Hey, we might go live emergency podcast.
But listen, let's assume that happens. He gets 280 mil, 150 guaranteed, which is what the numbers are saying.
Holy, hey,
So,
Robert,
hey.
I would burn my fucking jersey if that happened.
I don't. So I guess it comes down to if you're a believer in Kyler or not with the Cardinals team. So if you don't believe in Kyler, the Cardinals are going nowhere. But if you look at what Kyler did at the beginning of last season and how dynamic it was, and he was the front runner for MVP for 7 weeks.
We just need him to stay healthy.
If he stays healthy, then he
has
can play
been
in
a
this league.
runner for MVP before, Robert.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And
Never got in a vote. Ever.
I agree.
Let him finish.
I agree.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
a different conversation. I agree
Yeah,
with you
different
on that.
conversation. Yeah.
But here's the thing about the Cardinals that people don't respect and don't understand is that Cliff Kingsbury is actually a better offensive coordinator than people give him credit for, because he's doing things in the run game that people haven't seen before. And the thing that the Cardinals
He's embraced the run a little bit more than people thought he would.
and he's part of the reason James Conner had such a renaissance season last season to come back to where he is, and what he did with Chase Edmonds and any other running back that we might be able to put back there and succeed. But what the Cardinals did in the second round last year, or this year, I should say, was they drafted Trey McBride,
Let's go to
the first tight end that was drafted in the entire draft, and the unanimous number 1 tight end in the entire draft.
Even though they had Zach Ertz.
Had record-breaking numbers out of the tight end position in college history last season.
Damn.
I think people are sleeping on that a little bit, and I think if you go watch his tape and watch him play, he looks like kind of the George Kittle, like George Kittle a little bit, and like one of those guys. He's got that type of upside, and he could be that good of a tight end.
Okay.
I think he's going to play right away. It's between Zach Ertz and him, and I think they're going to see a lot of 12 personnel, so 2 tight ends on the field at the same time, especially early on with Nuke out. So I think you're going to see a lot of change-ups in the scheme with, running some go routes with Hollywood Brown while you're running 12 personnel. And I think if Trey McBride has a good camp, then that could really change a lot of the offense early on in the season. and who knows what can happen if Kyler's, dialing it in. And really it comes down to kind of like what you guys are discussing, if that defense can be trusted or not. Because if that defense can't be trusted and that defensive line gets scorched like they did last season, especially towards the end of last season, then that's just where the holes are. And then that's the ceiling of the team, which is, in my opinion, about 9 wins. Depending on the coin flip games, it could go to 7, right? It could easily go to 7, but I'm optimistic and say 9.
Okay, I'll give you that. You say 9 wins. You made a comment earlier, and I'm going to use that to transition into the fantasy talk about Kyler Murray, how many wins he's worth. Is he truly a top 10 quarterback? One thing's for sure, in real life, it's debatable, but in fantasy football, you can mark Kyler Murray in as a QB1. He's projected to be QB2 this year based on PFF. That's where I grabbed that number from. Ben, you're the fantasy guy here.
Hey,
who do you love? Who do you love on the Cardinals?
Who do you love?
Who do you love? Hey, let me give you something right here, baby. We're in the 7th. We're in the 7th round.
You sound like Bobby the Brain from wrestling. Hey, let me tell you something here, baby.
I see Alan Teresa here saying Black Friday dead. Hey, we're in the 7th round. We can choose between Kyler Murray and Jalen Hurts. Who are we taking as our QB?
7th
Jalen
round?
Hurts or Kyler Murray? Hey, the round, don't pay attention to the round.
I was gonna say.
Who are you taking? I think both guys bring scrambling ability. I think both guys, we question their arms. One guy because of his height, and one guy because he had to transfer out of fucking Alabama. Let's be real.
Well, he lost his job.
For a freshman, facts. So let me tell y'all, who are y'all taking QB1? Are you all taking Kyler Murray or are you all taking Jalen Hurts?
If I had the choice and they were both staring at me and I was in a position to draft a quarterback, I'm taking Kyler Murray 8 days out of the week. You're talking about 7 days earlier. I'm taking Kyler Murray 8 days out of the week. And that's because I drafted Jalen Hurts last year and he helped my team do good.
We're talking about the Mayan calendar now,
but
Roland.
in doing that, you can see that Jalen Hurts is just not very good at all of the things that you want a quarterback to be good at, like throwing the ball and timing. He's not very good at that. He will get you 20 points, but it's going to look disgusting. And he's also going to have some games where he throws 3 or 4 picks and you're just shot because your quarterback just screwed you. I'm going to take Kyler Murray all day here. It all comes down to his health. If Kyler Murray is healthy, which is a lot to say, it's a big if. Like, I'm making it sound simple because, hey, if he's healthy, he's going to be better than Hurts, which is true. But we were talking about it before on the air or before we got on. Injuries are Kyler's MO. You can always count on him getting some nicks and bruises. But with the scenario that you laid out for me, I'm taking Kyler Murray all day.
Robert, Allen here says you would take Hurts with A.J. Brown since Hopkins is out first 6 weeks. Are you taking Kyler or are you taking Hurts?
I'm still taking Kyler. I don't hate the discussion. I think it's definitely a good discussion to have.
It's fair.
But I still take Kyler, mostly because I don't think Kyler relies on Nuke as much as people think to sling it out. And Kyler's arm and accuracy is probably twice as good as Hurts. Not even 3
times. Just 3 times.
Very fair.
I don't think it's close. I don't even think it's close.
I'll agree with that. Hurts is horrible throwing.
So I really just, the upside of Kyler is way more than Hurts. I think at this point you're taking a flyer on Hurts because of his fantasy upside, the way he's running the ball and how they run the ball.
He's a running back. He's a running back.
But and he's got great wide receivers to throw to, which can make up for some of his inaccuracies.
Listen, Robert. AJ Brown is undraftable in my book, baby.
At his ADP, you would want to pass on him at his ADP.
I mean, unless Jalen Hurts has some weird Josh Allen type of transformation in accuracy.
Now you're speaking my language.
Then it's hard to trust Hurts just from that perspective, throwing the football based off what we've seen today.
Okay.
Doesn't mean he can't do it, but he hasn't. So how can I trust him? Kyler has done it and shown he's done it, and had the highest percentage of deep ball accuracy in the entire NFL last season. So you can trust him. And Hollywood Brown's an upgrade over Christian Kirk. Any way you like to see it, Hollywood Brown is an upgrade over Christian Kirk.
But Hopkins,
and there's no doubt about that. Hopkins being out is hard, but like I said, you have Zach Ertz, which is that safety valve for him. You have Trey McBride coming in. If he has a good camp, will play well. You have Rondale Moore, who's one of the most exciting players coming in for year 2 this season. AJ Green can still play. He showed it. He almost had 1,000 yards last season, so he can definitely still play. So it's exciting to see what can happen with. I'm excited actually to see what's going to happen with Nuke gone so early in the season because it was so fucked up last season.
Just spread it around.
So I'm excited to see how it looks because Nuke's also getting older. He's not going to be there forever. So he's got another 2 years left.
I'm gonna go.
Those sticky fingers don't go away. Right?
And I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with
Fitzgerald's the best hands in all time, and he finally retired.
Larry Fitzgerald. Give me Kyler Murray, man. Give me Kyler Murray here. Easy. Reason being is because everybody's he's not gonna have Nuke. But what do we see out of quarterbacks when their top wide receiver or their top guys aren't there? They try to make more things happen. I mean, you just said they have that killer tight end, which is an easy dink and dunk. He has Ertz as well. Hollywood Brown for the deep ball whenever he does catch it. He's gonna have more weight on his shoulders. You said he's gonna get paid before, but regardless, it's a show out year for him. He feels like he has the team on his back. And to your point about Nuke, if I'm looking at this correctly, he only scored more than 10 fantasy points about 3 or 4 times in the first 8 weeks. So Hurts, his accuracy isn't there. The receivers that he has are okay, but I would still kind of take the Arizona Cardinals receivers.
I take the weapons of Arizona too.
Yeah, exactly. And they're going to run the ball, just like you said. They're going to run the ball more focused, and that's going to set up play action. Fantasy-wise, you got to give it to Kyler over Jalen Hurts no matter what, because Jalen Hurts has his legs, but what is he more prone to do than Kyler Murray? Throw picks, fumble the ball, try to do too much, so he's more turnover prone and Kyler isn't. So give me Kyler Murray. That's an easy question over Jalen Hurts.
Ron, I thought it was a fair question, but when you talk about the running and the fumbling and the picks, it transitions a little bit into what the 49ers have looking forward this year. Roland?
Yeah. I just wanted to ask one more thing on Kyler Murray and the Cardinals, and that's just their offensive line. Do you have any concern there? I was just looking at PFF. They have them ranked towards the bottom. They have one of the older offensive lines, so they're about an injury away from maybe things getting scary again for Kyler Murray and one of those injuries rearing its ugly head. And
that's a question for Robert because I don't know anything about their O-line.
I think a lot of teams have very thin offensive lines that an injury away really sets things back. I think even the Cowboys saw that. I think most teams are like that where you lose.
I like that shot at the Cowboys, Robert.
I'm just saying they had some offensive line injuries last year.
Robert, you can become a regular on this podcast.
We're not talking about the NFC East.
They saw some injuries and start getting slaughtered. Anyway, it's the same thing goes for the Cardinals. I mean, Rodney Hudson was worried. People thought he was going to retire because he didn't show up to minicamp. But just yesterday, he announced he is returning. So, he's an all-pro center. So having him back is huge. Justin Pugh, who's the left guard, he lost like 40 pounds or something like that during the offseason. So he's looking athletic and looking good. And he's great. He's a Pro Bowl guard, so he looks good. I think the right side of the line needs to be shored up a little bit, but we're working towards that. Will Hernandez, who was signed from the Giants, who was a first-round pick from shout out to UTEP. So, he might turn out because the Cardinals offensive line coach was his head coach at UTEP. So that's a good sign that things might, he might have
that's a nice little tidbit right there.
Yeah, so he might come up and have a good season at the guard position and maybe show that first round potential that he displayed out at UTEP.
All right.
So yeah, I think there's definitely a reason the Cardinals, I would say it's a middle of the pack offensive line. But like you said, a couple injuries and it's not looking good.
Yeah, but to your point, everybody is kind of set up like that in the NFL. And I guess we're spending a little bit of time here on the Cardinals. Any last comments fantasy-wise that you guys want to make? Anybody interested in a James Conner or a Zach Ertz this year?
Yeah, who's the value guy?
I think
is Zach Ertz going to be a top 5 running back or is James
Conner running back?
Tight end, or is James Conner going to be a top 10 running back? What's more likely to happen?
I'll say this. James Conner is going to have top 10 running back touches. That's for sure. So he's definitely worth a flyer just for that reason alone.
Agreed. He's a bell cow this year.
Yeah, so he got paid for a reason. He's gonna get fed the ball. And also one thing that I loved about James Conner last season, he was catching the ball out of the backfield so well.
37 catches or something
like that. He was snagging it. I mean, he was out there making one-handed catches like every game. And
he posted 37 catches, 375 yards, and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, so that's great.
Will he be RB1 this year?
He won't be RB1, but he'll have a week where he ends up RB1 just like he did last year.
Yeah, I think.
I'm saying like for the Cardinals.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah,
the majority.
Yeah, he's the bell cow back. I mean, his backup is Darrell Williams, who was just signed from the Chiefs, who's really just more of a supplemental guy.
And Robert, you can attest to this. Kingsbury, since he's been the coach, he likes having an every down running back. You look at David Johnson before he got himself in the doghouse. You look at Kenyon Drake, Edmonds, and Connor. They've all handled a snap rate north of 80% at one point or another since 2019.
Yeah, for sure. Chase Edmonds and James Conner were fun to have at the same time last year, so I think they split it a little bit more until Chase Edmonds got hurt. So Conner took the full load, and that kind of displayed just how good Conner was. But yeah, you're right. I think he does like using that one running back system and just kind of running him to the ground. Unless Benjamin comes out of nowhere and plays well, I still don't think that matters. I think James Conner is just going to get all the snaps.
Hey, so James Conner, RB2,
Yep.
high end, right?
I like that.
For sure. Yeah, I would definitely take it. If for some reason he falls to the third round, I think he's great in the third round in fantasy. Probably even into the second, which is probably where he's going right now. I think that's good. Like I was saying before the show, I think I really like AJ Green. Basically getting him for free at the end of drafts when he's going to be, playing a Nuke's role and getting a lot of catches and getting a lot of looks. And I think that's going to be really good at the early end of the season, especially if you're getting him for free. And I think somebody that's going to be like I keep hyping up Trey Mcbride because I really like him a lot. I think he could be a waiver wire guy early on in the season if the Cardinals utilize him, like I hope they do. So,
and we talked about him.
Don't be surprised by that.
We talked about him earlier as a key addition. I do think there might be a little bit of an argument to make for stacking Murray and Marquise Brown, especially
sure.
Hopkins being out early in the season.
Yeah, Hollywood's going to play well, and he's going to get a lot of targets too. I think he's overdrafted a little bit, so that's why I haven't mentioned him because he's such an obvious key addition with Nuke out. I think people are overdrafting him because he looks like a wide receiver 1 until Nuke gets back, so people are riding that wave a little bit. But I'm super excited for him, but I wouldn't take him as ADP right now.
Okay, good points. So let's move on. We spent a lot of time talking to the Cardinals.
Robert, San Francisco 49ers.
That's who we're about to talk about. But Robert, thank you for your insight. Do you want to stay on and talk about these next two teams with us?
I'm going to stay on for the Niners, but I'm going to skip the Seahawks because they're poverty now.
Robert, I respect that.
I imagine a lot of the viewers will skip out on the Seahawks talk because, like you said, they're a poverty franchise right now. So
ain't much to talk about.
Let's move on to the 49ers. And they got third place in the NFC West. I thought they had gotten second, but shit, they got third place in the NFC West, right behind the Cardinals at 10-7. They went 4-4 at Levi Stadium, 6-3 on the road, another road warrior. They did not fare so well against the division. They went 2-4 against the division this past year. They ended up losing in the NFC Championship to the Rams. As I mentioned, they didn't do good against the division. That included getting swept by the Cardinals and getting swept by the Seahawks. Can guarantee you they're not going to get swept by the Seahawks this year again. Maybe split with the Cardinals this year. This is a team. This could be a sign for regression, although they did go 500 in these games. They had 10 games decided by 8 points or less. They went 5-5 in those games. And the big question coming into the season is who is going to be the quarterback, although I think this got answered today with the news that came out with Jimmy Garoppolo, other words known as porn star Jimmy, being given permission to seek a trade. So we all know it's going to be Trey Lance for the most part being the starting quarterback going into this year. We look at their schedule. We know the NFC West has a tough schedule. I think they fall a little bit lower on the totem pole than the Rams and the Cardinals do. What do you guys think about the 49ers? Are you in on Trey Lance? Do you think he's going to be able to take this roster? And the point that I was making last year on the Niners, you can maybe make the point again this year. They have a well-built roster. They're
quarterback away, Roland. Let's
that's true.
Quarterback away.
But
they are quarterback away, and they still don't have that quarterback.
Because they have a great roster. So you just need a guy that keeps them afloat,
Well,
they got to the NFC Championship game with Jimmy G, and they got to the Super Bowl with Jimmy G before.
So let's take a step back and look at just how badly the 49ers handled this Jimmy G and just quarterback situation overall over the past 2 years. They traded 3 first-round picks to move up to number 3 overall in the draft to draft what some people mostly thought was Mac Jones. And honestly, I think the 49ers thought it was Mac Jones until
Shanahan thought it was
until it was an internal dispute where they went to Trey Lance. And I still think Kyle Shanahan wanted Mac Jones, and he got overruled for Trey Lance. And I think that was a huge start to what was their mishandling of Jimmy G, because they didn't trade him, and they didn't trade him because Jimmy G was better than Trey Lance. So they went ahead and ran with Jimmy G because Trey Lance wasn't ready. So then they led to a whole season of them playing with Jimmy G again. And what did that lead them? Sure, they did well this season, but was that really because of Jimmy G, or was that because in spite of Jimmy G?
They had a well-built roster.
It was more in spite of Jimmy G than anything.
Bro, overall, I think they have the best roster in that division. Overall, quarterback dependent.
Yeah, I think Kyle Shanahan's a better coach than Sean McVay, in my opinion.
Yeah,
the
number.
I think the Niners, and I despise the Niners, but I really think that if they had traded for Matt Ryan, then they'd be a Super Bowl contending team right off the bat. I think I'm really happy they didn't trade for Matt Ryan when that was thought of happening, because they ended up just completely bottling their quarterback situation. And now they still have Jimmy G on their roster and still don't know who to get him. And now they're not even going to get anything for him. You can talk shit about Josh Rosen and the Cardinals, but they got a 2nd-round pick for that guy. And look at him now. He's not even in the freaking league. Jimmy G is about to go for like a 5th round, and they're going to have to pay his contract because they do $24 million right now, guaranteed. So that means they either A, have to cut him just so they can clean up their shitty quarterback situation, or B, they're going to have to trade him and pay his contract and basically give him away for free, at least half. So they completely bottled their quarterback situation. And not only that, but then they're going to trot out Trey Lance, who has 0 experience. And I watched Trey Lance start against the Cardinals last season, the entire game. And I can tell you he looks completely unready for the NFL.
That's what I was about to ask you.
Terrible. He's terrible, Robert. He's terrible.
He might be.
You're not on the Trey Lance bandwagon. I mean,
I would like to say I've seen more Trey Lance than most people have that are high on him. And I don't think he's ready yet. I think people fall in love with the upside and who he is. He's a small North Dakota State, flashy guy, woohoo. But I don't think he's that guy right now. And I think he can be that guy. I think he can develop.
No, but he has to be that guy this year, Robert.
And he's not going to be. And I think that's why I think that I have the 49ers falling in a downward trend and having them under 10 wins, because I think that they're going to fall into issues with Trey Lance and fall into a lot of growing pains with him. But I think their defense is a top 5 defense in the NFL with that defensive line. They made some improvements with the DBs. So their DBs was a problem last season, and they made some good improvements with signing Ward, from the Chiefs, and doing some other good things in the draft. They have Trent Williams. That's what Kyle Shanahan is good about doing, is utilizing his talent and utilizing the team that he has. And, he's been winning in spite of Jimmy G for years now. And now he's going to have to do it again with Trey Lance, which will be interesting to see. But I just think they're going to run into some more growing pains. And I think it's just, I don't know. It's tough.
This is my take on the Niners. Give me the 10 wins here. Give me the 10 wins
shit.
because of their roster.
They have a great roster.
George Kittle. The running backs on their squad are absolutely insanely good. All right. And then you have their schedule. I mean, when you have the Texans, Bears, and the Seahawks. Vikings.
Hey, throw the Broncos in there.
Hold on. Hold on.
Hey, all those teams that run the fucking ball, throw them in there, because Joey Bosa is eating those kids.
I'm telling you, you have the Vikings, Texans, Bears, Seahawks, 4 games in a row. Then you have in 2 weeks you have Carolina, and then after Carolina you get the Falcons, and then you play. Let me see. You have the Cardinals twice at the end of the year. You have the Commanders. You have the Seahawks and the Cardinals in 2 out of the last 4 games.
They got swept by the Cardinals last year.
You could learn, Trey Lance. Hey, you could come out and learn, Trey Lance.
The Cardinals put an ass whooping on the Niners with Colt McCoy at starting quarterback. The Cardinals beat the Niners last season 33-12 with Colt McCoy
I see why Robert wanted to stay on for the 49ers.
Colt McCoy trotted out there in San Francisco. Colt McCoy trotted out there and just put an ass whooping on the Niners.
Talking that cash money.
You can take that for what it's worth, but I think the Niners love playing down to their opponents. I could easily see them losing to the Vikings. I think the Vikings have a very good roster this year.
New coach, new head coach.
They could definitely lose to the Raiders. I think the Saints could be sneaky good. They could lose to the Saints. I could see them even losing to the Panthers if the Panthers defense plays well.
I had the same inclinations as you, Robert, when I was going through the schedule. When I went through my initial win-loss for the 49ers, I pegged them at 8 wins. I had them at 8-9. It's a tough schedule for them, and especially because of what Robert said, you don't know what you're going to get from Trey Lance. And I do think they have let me see. I had the number up here.
Top 5 coach in the NFL.
They have a top 5 coach. Their strength of schedule is 5th based on 2021.
Come on, bro. Good play,
strength
baby.
of schedule. So I would say based on that, they do have a tough schedule. So I just don't know what you're going to get with Trey Lance. If Trey Lance can come out and at least give you Jimmy G, Ron, I'm with you all day. I'll take the 10 wins. If
can we bring up the name here and say he kind of reminds me of another quarterback in San Francisco that nobody thought highly about either? The Big K, Colin Kaepernick. I mean, let's just put it out there.
That's
very comparable quarterback.
Very
comparable quarterback. And Cap had that system. He had all those weapons. He had that defense.
You got Kyle Shanahan.
Now, what he showed me last year, he was a rookie. You're not going to be a freaking Joe Burrow. You're not going to be
but they drafted
the guy from the Patriots. Mac Jones, who was put in an awesome system.
They drafted him 3.
They drafted him to be, but he didn't turn out to be that.
Yeah,
still a rookie. It's still his rookie year. I mean, we saw Justin Fields, wasn't great either. And then
on the Bears,
they kind of progress once they get more of those first team reps, and everything like that. So
fair.
And all the weapons. I mean, if you can't throw the rock that well, your running backs are great. You have a hell of a tight end that you don't have to throw the ball very far to. You have a great coach. Your defense is probably going to have you on the field a lot, if not maybe even win a couple games for you.
So Ron, you're making these points, and I agree with a lot of what you're saying. So you're saying if Kyle Shanahan can come up and scheme for Trey Lance and put him in a position similar to what Colin Kaepernick was in, you can see some electricity happening.
Definitely
for the 49ers. All right, that's fair.
But Debo has to stay on the squad. I will say that.
Yeah, Debo's the catalyst to that team. Let me say this: I watched Kyle Shanahan quote unquote game plan with Trey Lance against the Cardinals last year. I think he threw for like 120 yards or something like that. Of course, that was his rookie year. But would you rather have Justin Fields or Trey Lance? Of course, Trey Lance is more unknown right now.
I'd probably take Fields.
Yeah.
So. Justin Fields.
Okay, let me ask you this. Okay, because we're about to get into it. Let's just the question I was going to ask was fantasy wise more. Ben,
Big Irvs on the
Robert, Ron, you already gave your pick. You like the 10. Ben, do you like anything over here on the season bets and notable props for the 49ers?
Listen, I think they have the best overall team in the division. But obviously, the most important position is the quarterback position. Do they need a guy to do the minimum? Listen, nobody thought highly of Jimmy Garoppolo. We all thought that he was an average Kirk Cousins type quarterback in the right situation. Obviously, gets to the Super Bowl, can't make those throws against the Chiefs, and they lose it. So here comes Trey Lance, a guy who's a dual threat, yes, somewhat limited throwing early on, but like we said, that soft schedule. You got the Texans, you got the Bears, you got the Seahawks,
Hawks right after.
You got the Panthers, you got the Falcons. Like that's time to get your confidence up. And we know Kyle Shanahan for being a good play caller. He knows how to mix it up. I think we can all agree he's the best coach in that division. I think that he's better than McVay. Yes, McVay can remember every play from 1967. But listen, it's all about what you're doing right now. I think that Kyle Shanahan is the best coach in the division. I think that, yes, obviously they're missing the most important position, but they got a wide receiver that can play wide receiver and running back. They got arguably the best tight end in the game. Hey, bro, throw the ball 4 or 5 yards down the field and let your guys do some yards after the catch. Kittle and Deebo Samuel are yards after the catch. I'm in on the 49ers fantasy-wise. I'm in on them to make the playoffs. I think they'll be the second best team in this division.
Do you think they get to 10 wins, though?
10 wins. Damn it, boy. I mean, you got
yes or no?
Yes or no? It's a yes or no question.
I'm going yes because they had a horrible injury-riddled season last season.
The season before last.
The season. I'm thinking that the tides change. Obviously, they made a run last year. They beat the Cowboys, beat the Packers.
The Cowboys beat themselves.
Yeah, and
mediocre quarterbacks can take you far. And
listen,
Nick Foles,
a
Jared
good
Goff.
defense can take you far, and they have a great defense.
Hey, I went back and I watched our tape from the NFC West last year.
Shit, Roland watching.
You said exactly what I said last year. I said the 49ers have the best roster. They just need Jimmy G not to suck. It's the same thing this year, except it's Trey Lance. And I will say, maybe I'm going to be wrong, but I have a little bit more faith in Jimmy G than I do in Trey Lance at this moment. Hey, Jimmy G. Hey, but hold on. At that point, they were coming off of that injury-riddled season. The season before that, Jimmy G helped them, or in spite of Jimmy G, they got to the Super Bowl. And they were a Jimmy G overthrow away from beating the Chiefs. You guys forget that. Horrible throw. But they complete that pass, they win the Super Bowl. Let's not forget that.
And let's not sleep on the fact that Jimmy G could still be on this roster.
True. That's another good point.
He could still be here. We're on the Trey Lance, just because his agents came out and said, you're open for a trade. But let's not sleep on him still being on the roster. Basically, the 49ers have two solid enough quarterbacks to get the 10 wins.
Robert, 0% chance Jimmy Garoppolo's on the roster.
I think that creates too much controversy. I think it creates too much. I think it's false. I don't think he'll be on the roster.
Yeah, he won't be on the roster either.
I think
that creates too much controversy in the locker room and just with the quarterback situation in general for them.
No chance.
But if he does stay on the roster, I find that comical because they've just been trying to get rid of him for 2 years and still can't.
That would be hilarious.
Whether it's a shoulder injury or whatever it is, or them trying to hold him at a higher value than he's really worth. It'd be pretty funny to watch him still be on the Niners this season because that really just displays just how fucked up they did this quarterback situation.
Let's flip the script.
Who's in their front office there?
John Lynch.
Trivia question.
John Lynch. Yeah. So I mean, I'm not saying I think Trey Lance is going to be a complete bust in the NFL. I just think this season, if they're trotting him out here, basically for his redshirt rookie season, I think there's going to be some growing pains, and I think they're going to lose some games we don't think they're going to lose, and that might be his fault. I think the defense is going to put them in position to win a lot of games, but Trey Lance might not move that needle and make them win those games. So we'll see.
Will you agree that when we take an X-ray of the San Francisco 49ers, we will see a dog in their rib cage of that?
Yeah, on the defense. Yeah, for sure.
Facts.
And Deebo. Deebo did come out and say that he wants to go to it amongst all the trade rumors. He wants to go to a team that is strictly going to use him as a wide receiver. He doesn't want to do that running back bullshit anymore.
If he's not going to get paid for it.
That's just because he knows the longevity of his career drops significantly if he keeps running the ball like this from the backfield. And I think his agents, I'm sure people have been in his ear about it. He knows he needs to get the bag now because he can't be running like a running back for a couple more years. He's going to lose his edge quickly.
And ESPN, let's just flip it to fantasy football real quick. They already said you have to use Deebo as a wide receiver strictly. They're not going to give you the opportunity to use him as a running back, so that kind of takes away from it. So let's flip to fantasy. I wanted to ask the question because you brought it up with Jalen Hurts and Kyler Murray. I know Trey Lance is a little bit more of a bargain. Do you see Trey Lance as potentially being the Jalen Hurts of 2022?
I'm not touching with a 10-foot pole.
I could see 2 touchdowns and 70 rushing yards a week.
That's what I'm saying. The Jalen Hurts of 2022.
I could see him being a stream. No, Jalen Hurts was a fantasy football winner.
Yeah, but I'm saying you got him in the later rounds. That's where you're going to be able to draft Jalen Hurts this year.
You could get him undrafted. And he might be good for 3 to 4
Jalen
weeks.
Hurts was going before being undrafted.
No, but I'm saying Trey Lance.
Oh, well, no, Trey Lance is not undraftable. He's going actually in the 10th or 9th round, but go on.
If you're drafting him,
I'm just saying that's his ADP.
I'm talking to the people who are drafting him right now.
I'm not drafting his ADP.
You're out of your fucking mind.
His ADP is 9 or 10, so obviously a lot of people are drafting him.
I'm just talking to the experts right now.
Yeah, I'm not drafting him. I don't like the boomer bust week after week situation with quarterbacks. I'd rather draft whoever else is going that. I don't know who else is going in 9th or 10th round, but give me Matthew Stafford or anybody in that range, even just a pocket quarterback. I'll take Justin Fields over him, even from a fantasy perspective.
Okay.
Because Justin Fields brings the upside too with running the football, slinging it, the whole 9 yards. So if they're going around the same ADP, I'd take Justin Fields over Trey Lance.
Shit, I'd take Trey Lance over Justin Fields in fantasy football. With that roster, with Kyle Shanahan,
and listen, and wins
and
fantasy stats can translate into different things. Do I think that the 49ers will have more wins than the Chicago Bears? Yes. Do I think Justin Fields could finish higher than Trey Lance in fantasy football? 100%, bro.
Yeah, give me Justin Fields over Trey Lance fantasy wise.
I want to go back to this. Trey Lance will finish higher than Justin Fields.
He's already got that.
We'll come back to this.
I don't think he will.
He's already got that first year under his belt. He's a proven winner in high school and in college. So you're going. 2 touchdowns and 70 yards, like Ben said, is that's what average. I see Trey Lance putting up 15-ish, but Justin Fields is a guy who you would think would be consistently at about 20. At about
20, I'm good.
I saw some.
That's Trey Lance this year for sure.
I saw some really good flashes from Justin Fields last year that really make me comfortable moving forward with him. So hopefully he continues to show that he can ball out.
Hey, let's get to the scum of the division.
No, well, we only talked about Trey Lance in fantasy. We got to talk about their wide receiver. We got Deebo Samuel at wide receiver 10. Yeah. Brandon Ayuk, wide receiver 46. Word out of camp on Ayuk is that it's not what you would want to see from a veteran receiver.
Seems there's always some negative things about Brandon Ayuk during training camp.
He found himself in the doghouse to start the year last year.
He was in the doghouse last year. He's in the doghouse again this year. I think something to do with work ethic.
Work ethic for sure.
Yeah, and it's just not something I like touching because I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I feel like Ayuk had some really high highs and some low lows last season.
That you would be right in saying that.
And I think, from a value perspective, I really like Jeff Wilson, who's been pegged as the for sure backup to Elijah Mitchell. So I love taking some high end handcuffs towards the end of the draft. I think Jeff Wilson's a really good handcuff to have this season because he showed how well he played before he was injured. So everything coming out of camp and everything that they're saying is that Jeff Wilson is the for sure backup to Elijah Mitchell. So I'd take Jeff Wilson, and then I'd for sure try to grab the 49ers defense because I think they're just freaking stout.
And all those points you just gave, Robert, is why my total over-under is 10. I think they easily get 10.
Hey, it's just plug and play at running back. Jeff Wilson, Matt Breida, whoever the fuck wants to run the ball in San Francisco can get in the end zone.
Yeah,
they're the best built team, bro. I think overall, offense to defense. Listen, the Bosa brother that they have, we could say what we want about him, but he's one of the better football players in the NFL. I think if it was top 20 players, he'd be a top 20 guy. The dude's a fucking animal when he's healthy.
And I know we're going to get into it later, but it's on the screen here. I know we're super heavy on the Rams and not having regression to win the NFC West was plus 115, plus 130. And you have the Niners at plus 150. I mean, that's extremely close. So even Vegas odds right here are saying don't sleep on the Niners to win the NFC West.
Yeah, it's possible. I just, it really there's way more question marks as quarterback with the Niners.
That price with the quarterback question.
I mean, the Rams have basically all their pieces coming back together. They're basically running it back, versus the Niners are just completely reinventing the wheel with their offense with Trey Lance. I think it'll be interesting. That's why I think I see regression. Yeah. But, I mean, their roster is great, but they've had a great roster for years now, and they haven't gotten over that hump.
I mean,
they
went to the
games they
NFC
shouldn't
Championship with a quarterback
and Super Bowl
like Jimmy G.
Yeah,
So
no doubt.
if Jimmy G's floor is as high as Trey Lance's ceiling is, I mean,
we'll see.
You're there.
We'll see. Maybe Trey Lance is a downgrade for all we know, and then the question mark really starts coming. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Another Jordan Love.
Hey, Robert,
situation.
you're really doing that, Robert.
Yeah,
Right.
we don't know.
We don't know. We don't know. That's a
Trey Lance
great
could
point.
show up next
Well,
year.
hey, Robert, but you're talking about them now drafting a bust.
Yeah, no, I mean
That's literally what you initiated.
they traded 3 first-round picks and moved up to the 3rd overall pick to draft this guy and trotted out Jimmy G this next season. So that leaves some
and got to the AFC title game.
That shows me. I'll tell you who didn't do that. And as much as I love dogging on him, Russell Wilson was drafted in the 5th round, and he earned his starting spot fucking quick.
Yeah, he took Matt Flynn's job, and that's because Matt Flynn just got paid,
and it didn't even matter. Jimmy G was in the thing, and Jimmy G was out there getting. Jimmy G was making $20 million a year, and Trey Lance didn't beat him out. That's for sure.
That's a very good point, and that's why I'm not as high on the 49ers this year as I was last year.
I
was saying the exact same thing.
If Trey Lance was that dude, he would have beat out Jimmy G last year. That's all there is.
That's a very good point. But hey, they drafted a guy that hadn't played in a year, because you got to keep in mind he didn't play that North Dakota State football year because of the whole COVID thing.
But then neither did Jamar Chase.
True. Yeah, but Jamar Chase is a baller.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Real quick before we finish up, where does Jimmy G go if he gets traded?
Honestly, some people think the Seahawks, which is kind of crazy to me.
It's
Seahawks,
75% the Seahawks.
75%. Rolling?
I don't have a good guess right now. I defer to whatever Robert or Ben said.
I think my vote is that he gets cut. I don't even think they find a trade partner because of his contract being owed $24 million. I think they have to cut him, and then who knows where he goes.
I mean, maybe the Panthers, but they just went for Jimmy G.
If he gets cut, Baker Mayfield. We know he's going to the Washington Commanders.
Maybe
they just got Carson Wentz.
No, if he gets cut though, Roland,
they paid Deshaun already, right? Because the Browns have no quarterback.
The Browns potentially. That's a good point. That's a very good point.
The Browns have no quarterback.
The Browns have been in talks. Yeah, if he gets cut, the Browns would be interesting, especially as a rental for the first 8 weeks or whatever the suspension will be. We'll see. I don't know where he'll go, but I do think he gets cut, and then it kind of opens up the show from there, because I don't think anybody wants. It's July 20th. Training camp's about to start. Most of these teams already have starting quarterbacks in place, and nobody needs a Jimmy G right now, especially for the asking price and the $24 million contract. Even if it's cut in half and they pay half of it to 12, that's still not even that good and friendly of a contract. So I think they end up cutting him and eating the cost, and then, or like you said, maybe they do keep him on the roster, but I think that just shows how fucked up they handle the situation.
If they keep him on the roster, bro, people got to start getting fired, bro. There's no way.
He might. I don't know, but they could.
I think the Browns.
Drew Lock, Geno Smith, or Jimmy G.
That's what I'm saying. That's not even debatable, bro.
Jimmy G, you take him over all those guys.
I think
if they're gonna cut him, I mean, come on.
I think you take Jimmy G all day, because I think what Drew Lock and Geno Smith do is lose you games. I don't think Jimmy G loses you that many games compared to those guys.
And I do think, though, that the Seahawks are they're dedicated to sucking this year, because they did say that they're sticking with Drew Lock and Geno Smith. So that they are dedicated to sucking.
All right. I do have to get going soon. I don't know if the Niners talk is done, but I do want to say this really quick as we transition to the Seahawks, because I do you can pull up their record really quick on the screen, because I actually like the over for their wins.
I was going to say that it's a very popular over this year.
I really like the over for their wins, and I'll give my fantasy picks too really quick, because I really like Noah Fant, because Drew Lock has a connection with him already, so I think he'll rely heavily on Noah Fant
from the Broncos.
And also, I don't think it's fair that people are putting DK Metcalf over Tyler Lockett when Tyler Lockett's clearly the better wide receiver on that team and has been for years. Tyler Lockett's about to break records that are all time on Seattle's team. Receiver. Yeah, so I like Tyler Lockett over DK, and I like Noah Fant as the best value play on the entire Seahawks roster.
Not with the quarterbacks that are going to throw to him.
Oh, well, Chris
Drew Lock. I
Carson-
mean, hey, Drew Lock kind of sucks. But let me ask you this:
Kind
real quick
of
about Drew Lock. 2 years ago, was it 2 years ago? There were some people out there that were pretty fucking hyped for Drew Lock on that Broncos team just because the dude was dancing and singing on the sidelines.
Yeah, his
he
name
knew
was
the word to
Mondo.
put on.
I put on for my city. But listen,
I was about to say he didn't even know the name to that song, and we had a guy come on here and say that year that they were going to win 11 games.
that's what I'm saying. There were people, and I
Mondo was
remember,
just
and I've
stupid.
talked to some of my friends before the season started that truly believed Drew Lock was that guy. I think he was even getting drafted in fantasy. I think some media people were talking about how Drew Lock could be, a good quarterback.
That guy's terrible. That guy's terrible.
Yeah, he's terrible. Absolutely. But, hey, maybe he could squeeze out a couple wins.
Is he better than Brock Osweiler?
Yes. Yeah, he's better than Brock Osweiler. Brock Osweiler was a piece of shit. Brock Osweiler didn't even make claims to win the game.
starts, bro. Relax.
Brock Osweiler was a criminal.
Relax,
He robbed the Texans
Brock
of like
Osweiler has
didn't the Texans pay like $100 million
playoff
or some shit? Like, absolutely robbed.
Tim
Sold
Tebow
to
or
the
Brock
Browns.
Osweiler needed.
Yeah, fuck it. I don't know. I think Drew Lock could get them a couple wins. I think, honestly, I liked what I saw from Geno Smith last season in his limited playing time when Russell Wilson was hurt. I thought he looked pretty good at times. So I think they can sneak off 6 wins. I don't know if you have their record on here or not really quick.
Yeah, we should.
Okay. They definitely beat the Lions. So the first 2 games, they can beat the Falcons, the Lions. They could sneak a win against the Saints. They could sneak a win against the Giants. They play the Jets and they play the Panthers. And
Yeah, those are all winnable games.
Those are
I
all
agree.
very winnable games for them. And maybe even sneak one win against the Cardinals or an NFC West opponent, just because you never know
split.
the divisional games how those go. So
Facts.
I think they could sneak in 6 wins. I don't think their roster is very good.
I think it's tough. I think
Their
it's
offensive
very
line
tough
is like
because
the cheapest offensive line in the NFL or something like that. They did get Charles
when-
Cross. in the
I was
first
going to
round.
say they did draft Charles Cross the first year that they let go of Russell Wilson.
Dude.
Russell Wilson
Yeah.
was calling for offensive line his whole career. What do they do as soon as he leaves? They
And
draft the offensive lineman in the first round.
And honestly, if Rashad Penny plays like he did at the end of last season, because he tore up the Cardinals for 200 yards in the last week of the season, I think he put up almost 700 yards in the last 5 weeks and 6 touchdowns. So if Rashad Penny plays like that again, he'll be extremely valuable in fantasy, and he'll, the way Pete Carroll wants to play and wants to coach anyway is ground and pound, play action,
wants to run the
old
ball.
fashioned, run the ball. Let's see what happens. Maybe they can make Jamal Adams worth his contract somehow, but
No, there's no way of that. They're gonna run twice, pass once. Listen,
Almost
don't draft Chris
Or-
Carson. He'll be hurt by week 5 or 6.
Huh?
And just wait on Rashard Penny, like Robert said, because
no, it's okay.
it's gonna be one of those backup guys that takes that role.
yeah.
No
Who knows?
running back ever stays healthy in the Seahawks. Listen, Pete Carroll is not changing. He's going to ground and pound and then pass on 3rd down with a bum-ass quarterback going to be forced to punt.
Yeah.
I think you have a running back, too, in whoever the Seahawks are giving the majority of carries to.
Ground and pound like he should have done in the damn Super Bowl, given it's a beast mode.
Hey, man. Some people don't learn.
I think it's fair, the way Robert broke it down, looking at the schedule, that you could peg them to reach the total and even get over the 5.5. But you also have to, look at the fact that what if the season doesn't go as they plan, and if they get off to a horrible start, they might start thinking tank. They might start thinking the Bryce Young sweepstakes. They might start looking to try and get to the top of the draft, so that total goes by the wayside. When I looked at their season schedule, I pegged them right around 5 or 6 wins, so it comes out to a no bet for me. I could see them getting to 6 and cashing the total, but it's a no bet ultimately.
Honestly,
if they don't get Garoppolo,
Yeah.
it's clear what they're doing. They're fucking
Yeah.
tanking.
it'll be interesting. I can see them still sneaking in 6 wins, even if they're tanking. We'll see what happens. But even if they do tank and they have the first overall pick, you have to take Will Anderson. I don't know if y'all know much about Will Anderson.
Yeah, well, I understand. He's like 20-1 to win the Heisman right now as a defensive end.
As a defense, if you have the first overall pick, I don't care what your quarterback situation is, you have to take Will Anderson.
Yeah,
He's
we
a
had Nick
fucking
Saban at
freak.
the SEC Media Day saying that he doesn't know if he's ever had a player.
He's a freak.
like Will
He's
Anderson.
some people say he's like Lawrence Taylor type of like defensive end. Like he's just that
Who does he
That
play
generational.
for? Who
He
does
plays,
that
he,
guy
play, he plays for Alabama.
Oh, well,
Roll Tide,
September
baby.
10th
Roll
in
Tide.
Austin, Texas.
I know. I might go to
That
that game.
boy Will Anderson is gonna get his ass.
I'm thinking about going to that game, actually.
Hey, let's get some
We
tickets.
should all go to that
bro.
game.
Hey, I'll see you
Tickets.
there,
I will.
Robert.
Let me know, guys. Let's do it.
Or next week against the UTSA Roadrunners.
Ben, buy me some
I would
tickets.
love to watch UT pound UTSA. That'd be
Nah,
like,
that's not gonna
That's a
happen.
week. That's a
prime
week
time.
after
Yeah.
Bama, Robert. That's a week after
That's not
Bama.
gonna happen.
that might be good. Maybe I'll just go to that and just watch UTSA get their ass whooped.
Hey, pick your poison, baby.
You're
Pick
talking
your
to
poison.
the.
You go,
You're
Robert,
talking
Texas
to
Hey,
the.
Robert. Hey,
Hey,
no, let
Robert.
me
Go
bring this
Cats,
up for
go.
Robert. Hey, Robert, if you want to go watch UT versus Bama, 11 a.m. kickoff.
Yeah, I know it.
If you want to go watch UT versus UTSA, 7:30 kickoff.
Because they know that that's a
That's a
must-see.
whole lot of tailgating. Robert.
Everybody wants to see
Nice and
that.
quiet. I can put the
upset.
kids to bed, just sit
Robert.
down, relax,
Hey, we'll
watch
shit all
UTSA
over
get their
Roland.
ass
You
beat,
know what I mean?
just
We'll give Roland nookies.
hang
And
out.
Because
Wally.
the Longhorns gonna beat the
Yeah.
shit
Not gonna
out of
happen.
them.
Yeah.
Not gonna happen.
I'll just wear a Texas State shirt to that game, just so you really understand.
I'm gonna
Where
wear a
you're coming
vaquero
from-
shirt to that.
Where you're
game.
coming from on that, Robert? You're
Uh,
Texas State?
Hey, you're talking. Hey,
Eat
Ben.
'em up,
Hey,
dude.
Ben. Why don't you buy us our tickets? You're the number one selling associate at AT&T
Yeah.
Brown.
So what game do y'all want to go to? All right. What
Let's
game?
go to that UTSA game. UTSA versus UT.
Yeah, because Bama's gonna roll Tide.
Yeah, we all know that.
Easy.
We all know that.
I don't want to go to a blowout. I want to go to a little bit more of a competitive game. And at 7:30, I'm out. It's out.
I love it.
I haven't looked at the line.
UTSA game it is.
I haven't looked at the line, but let's kind of
Tickets will probably be
transition to
cheaper,
ending
too.
this with what's the line for UT versus UTSA
Oh,
in
the-
Austin?
That line will
30.
probably be about 15 to 20
30.
because they're 15-point dogs to Alabama at home. They're 15-point dogs in Austin to Alabama. I
UT
already saw
can
them
beat
with the headline.
UTSA by 30 to 40 points. If
This
they
Yeah,
isn't
that's
the
right,
same
Robert.
UTSA,
Hey, Robert.
This isn't the same
Hey,
UTSA.
Robert.
Does UTSA have a stadium?
Hey,
Robert, they'll
Hey,
make
this
them
one
a
the Alamo Dome,
community
baby.
college,
Yeah,
baby.
UTSA borrowed
Robert,
the Alamo
you
Dome.
want to rep Austin? You want to rep the Longhorns? You wear that in Austin.
This is
Hey, hook
no,
him
you're
for
from San
Justin, bro.
Antonio?
This
Hook him
is
for
a-
Justin.
You
this is
gotta rep
coming.
UTSA,
This is coming from my Bobcats, man. I gotta stay true to the Bobcats because someone has to.
Bobcats,
Yeah.
my boy AC Chopper. Bobcats.
That's right, Texas State, baby. So that's where it comes from.
I'm
tired of fucking losing to UTSA, man.
Hey,
so
so let's
Yep. Fun
let's
belt,
end this with our plays,
Yeah.
Yeah, let's get to it.
our
Let's get to it.
futures for this division.
All right.
Boys, who wants to go first?
Damn, Dickie V just
Let's let
accepted.
the guest go first, Robert.
Yeah, I'm gonna go
What do you
first,
like
and I'm gonna
here?
bounce
Yeah,
out of here.
bounce out of here.
I think you guys know I really like the over on wins on the Seahawks. I'm just gonna roll with that, see if they can get to 6 wins, and just have fun watching them be a shit show.
That's fun. I like
All right,
that. I
that's
respect
fair.
that.
That's fair. All right, Robert.
without
Thank you
further
very
ado-
much, man. We
Yeah.
appreciate you being
Thanks,
here.
fellas.
The first 2022 We Talking About Sports
Love it.
season
Let's go, man.
division. We appreciate you being here. You had some great insight on your Cardinals.
Let's go.
I'm not very high on them, but for the sake that you were on
Hey,
the
I feel
show
that.
and our first guest of the year, I hope that they do well for you, bro. So
I feel it.
Go
Just don't be
Cardinals,
surprised
man.
if Kyler wins the
Hey,
MVP
Robert.
or
Hey,
some shit.
and you got to come on for the Sunday shows once we get them on.
Let's
and
do it,
give
man.
them
Just
some
give me a
tips.
holler. You guys know where to find me. Appreciate
Yes,
it, fellas.
sir. Yes, sir. Take it easy, Robert. All right. Let me give my pick. Robert just signed off, so I'm about to start talking some
Hey,
shit about
let's
the
shit
Cardinals.
all over the Cardinals,
I'm about to
baby.
start talking some shit on the Cardinals.
Oh yeah.
Give me the Cardinals under 8.5, and give me we have the 49ers at 9.5 here. I saw them at 10 on the other page. If it's 10, give me the under 10.
You're tripping, bro.
Hey, give me the Cardinals to get regulated, not be in the NFL next year. Listen, Kyler Murray will be a quarterback in the CFL against Johnny Manziel. Player
Johnny
control
Manziel's in
league.
the fan controlled football league.
Draft day.
Yeah.
Johnny
Listen,
Manziel.
I loved our guest. He gave us a lot of insight on the division. But the Cardinals are a fucking volcano waiting to burst, baby. And they're going to burst one of these Sundays here on the We Talking About Sports pre-show. We're
Is that
going
a
to
good
call
team,
that
though?
fucking collapse.
Oh, collapse.
First coach fired, Cliff Kingsbury, after getting the extension. That's where I'm going.
So you would think Cliff Kingsbury gets fired before Mike
Oh,
McCarthy?
yeah. 0-3 start. He's fucking out of there.
brother.
Oh, yeah, brother.
What about you, Ron? What are you thinking here on the screen?
Rams. Marky Garza and the Rams. Marky Garza and his bootleg signed jersey that he got from Mondo, which was
OBJ
fake.
wore that in the Super Bowl for the coin toss.
Because the true story
I'm
is
going to
that
bet that OBJ didn't sign that.
the true story is that Marky, the joke's on you. I signed that jersey. I signed it. That's the joke. I signed it, and we just made some money off you. So I'm sorry, partner. No, but give me the Rams, real talk, to win the NFC West at plus 130. That's plus money. And
Hey, Alan.
why
you
not?
signed the jersey,
Alan,
Ron?
tell
That
Marky
was you?
he got fucking hustled, Alan.
You signed the jersey, Ron?
I
You
signed
tell
the
me that
jersey,
shit.
and we even played the story like, oh, it's taking him a little long to get, and the Cash App this, and Mondo's not
they
gonna
gotta
get it.
verify that it's
Yeah.
original
Hey, we had to
Super
make
Bowl
it. Yeah, bro.
order.
We had
I
to make
wouldn't buy
it
one of those jerseys
believable.
without the verification, and Marky bought it without the verification. So.
Yeah, bro. We're like, oh, we found the sucker.
Hey, suckers get licked, cuz. And Marky got licked.
Oh
Because
my
that's
God.
what suckers do. They get licked.
Boy, Marky watched us while we gave the flowers to the Rams. I don't know if he's still watching this right now, but that's a big revelation.
That $200 jersey that you just got is worth like $5.
Hey, put a little bit more respect on your Johnny Hancock, Ron.
All right,
I gotta
50.
give you like 50.
It's
There we
Herbie
go.
Hancock.
Herbie Hancock. There we go. All right. Well, this has been fun, guys. This is the first of many breakdowns that we're going to give you all throughout the preseason. Ben, did you give your pick before I go on?
Yeah. I know. Ben, what's yours?
my
And
pick
Roland,
here
what was yours?
is the motherfucking Cardinals to miss the playoffs and Cliff Kingsbury to go back to college football.
Even?
And we might see the first ever time that Kyler Murray gets demoted to college football again.
They give him more
Because
eligibility.
the
I like
fucking
that.
Cardinals are going to be ass. Because
Yeah, my two favorite
the
bets on
Cardinals are going to be like the Lakers in the basketball season. They're going to be that team that was supposed to do a lot, but it was a whole lot of motherfucking hype.
You're calling Kyler Murray the Russell Westbrook of football?
What
I
I'm
like
saying.
that. Give me the Cardinals under 8.5, and I'm gonna tag on to Ron to make this a We Talking About Sports 2-unit play. Give me the Rams to repeat in the NFC West.
2 times.
Give me the Rams to repeat.
2
in the NFC West.
times.
I'm with Ron on that.
All right. So We Talking About Sports is giving you 3 plays. Rams plus 130 to win the NFC West. The Cardinals
Under
to not make the playoffs
Lottery team.
at minus 130. And what was the other one?
the Cardinals under 8.5 wins.
Cardinals under 8.5 wins at minus
Oh,
115.
yeah.
And
Oh,
and
yeah.
hey, we're not Vegas Dave here. We're not giving you minus 300 plays.
This
and
ain't
shit.
no bullshit.
Minus 130, minus 115, and even a plus play at plus 130.
And
Lock
the
it
next-
in now for the first division, and let's see how it happens at the end.
And we did keep track of our plays last year. I don't have it in front of us right now, but we did
will.
do pretty good on our season-long bets last year. We didn't cash everything, but we came out on top, and we started with the NFC West last year, and we were pretty zoned in on the NFC West. So I think we're going to do good again on this division. We're going to bring it to you guys next week. We're going to switch gears to the AFC, but we're going to stay on the West Coast. We're going to hit you guys with the AFC West. That's the Chiefs, the Raiders, the Chargers, and the Broncos. So we might have a Mondo. We might have a Mondo appearance.
Oh,
on the
for
podcast.
what?
Hey,
So he
you
can make
better
some
come on and
ridiculous
say that
predictions?
bullshit live.
Hey, shout out to Alan who's still with
Yeah,
us.
shout out to
Noe, Justin, the other, he's part of the Four Horsemen right here. Justin, you need to comment who the original Four Horsemen were right now if you're a true wrestling fan. Alan's still with us, and Justin caught the Tommy Boy reference, which I like. So shout out to Justin. He's on vacation. It's the first week of the We Talking About Sports 2022 NFL season. He's on vacation. Now we know where his priorities lie, but that's fine.
I was about to say, you take vacation on the first week of work. That's pretty crazy. That's a bold
Yeah,
move.
we don't do that around here.
That's a bold move.
Let him
I
know.
got-
But he's a
gotta wait
fucking
90
Cowboys fan.
You gotta wait 90
We're gonna
days.
let
Ben.
that shit fly because we're
You gotta
gonna
wait
feel
90
sorry for
days.
him later on.
Ben Allen said, "I wouldn't say the Lakers. The Nets were supposed to do more."
Allen's a Lakers fan.
All right.
That's what a Lakers fan would say. Hey, Allen, shout out to the fam, cuz.
Any
So-
parting shots? Any parting shots before we sign off? Because I'm about to cut it here in the next 45 seconds.
Hey, Roland, you need to cut it.
You need to
Need to
cut
cut
it.
it. I like that.
You
little-
need to
that's fun.
cut wives and girlfriends in the show. I noticed that. Don't think that I didn't notice that. You need to
You
cut.
brought me
that.
some ice cream.
Okay, well then that's fine.
Hey, so we're going
Hitting you
Rams.
with some quality dairy.
Hey, we talking about sports. Rams consensus to win the division. Fuck with us if the Rams don't win. You heard?
Yep. And Marky, you got to give up that fake jersey if they don't win.
Thanks.
But anyways, guys,
Yeah,
that was
that's
we
it.
talk-
Hell
as
of
we
a
talking
show.
about sports, NFC West breakdown. We're gonna post the audio and the video for you guys that didn't get to listen to us, and we're getting to the AFC West next week. Noe, the NFC North is on the schedule. I know you're a Packers fan. You can
Yeah.
come on the show and talk about the Packers, but we're gonna get to that in maybe a week or two. So bear with us, you guys. It's been fun. So we talking about sports. You guys have a great rest of the week.
Yeah, that's it. Thanks. Peace.